Okay, I'm going to call to order the meeting of the planning board of the town of Rochester. Pam, are we connected?
Now we're good.
Just give me a high sign.
Good.
We're good? Okay. So let everybody stand for the pledge of allegiance. Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're secretary less or assistant less tonight, so I'm going to be playing a bunch of roles. So I'm going to call the roll. I'm here. Patrick Williams here. Zoe Pinsky out. Sam Zarowski here. Marilyn Lindstrom
Here.
Mark Grasso here. Zach Jarvis here. Mary Lou is out, so we're doing this without an attorney. This should be interesting. And Anne-Marie, our alternate, is here. And also here is Liz Axelson, who is our planning board jack of all trades. Okay. All right, so the first thing on the agenda is Lucky Petroleum, a continuation of the public hearing. If the applicant and the engineer would like to approach the board. Testimony. If anybody would like to speak, we appreciate it if you either sign in over here or just signify that you want to speak. And it's a continuation of the public hearing that we started last week's public hearing is still open. So at this time, I'll listen to hear anybody who has a comment about Lucky Petroleum. This is a project that involves a redo of the gas station across from the Little League fields over there by the cleaners or by the laundromat rather. And part of it is going to be both gas pumps as well as a Dunkin' Donuts. So that's the project that the public hearing is still open for. Would anybody like to speak on the project? Going once, going twice, going. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to.
I'll second.
Okay. Does the board have any comments? Any comments?
No.
Okay,
Very much
Liz?
commented this together.
you commented out. Liz, do you have any comments? No.
All
And,
packed in here.
okay, the
Except
chair,
the benches. Gonna look at.
the chair has no comments, with the exception of, I just want to let you know that I talked to Qatar about the escrow for the landscaping. And instead of going with section 140-56, which involves the town board and getting them to approve the escrow amount, there's a section in our landscaping code 140-15E, which allows the applicant to give us an estimate of the landscaping cost, which he's estimated at 10,000. I just need it in writing.
He was supposed to get that with his contract.
Okay, so I just need it in writing.
Yeah.
And you have to post 125% of that. So that would be 12,500.
Bond, you need?
No, well, it could be the bond, it could be cash, escrow monies, it could be,
Is letter of credit one of the things that Mary Lou read?
there were 4 different things. When Mary Lou returns, she's on vacation. It's in the decision that you have to do it. I'm going to put you in touch with Mary Lou. You guys decide what's best. It could be a bond, it could be a letter of credit, it could be cash. It's your call, but we have custody over it until it's done. And we're going to keep it for 1 year, not when it's necessarily finished, but 1 year after it's finished to ensure that it's still growing. So, okay. I had our planner prepare a draft. It was posted as a draft to the website, anticipating that we might close the public hearing. So I have a draft decision to read. Liz, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Do
You
we
have
have
to
a
speak louder.
copy?
A copy of the decision?
Copy of the
For the-
It's
decision?
on.
It's on the
It's on the internet.
No, I have it, but I
Okay.
didn't know if we had a
Right.
copy. so
For the
we could
applicant.
read along.
Never voted for it.
Public hearing.
Oh,
We
okay.
need to vote to close.
We got a first and a second.
Oh, okay. Who is the second? Mark? All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. No, I don't have copies for the applicant, so you can share yours.
No.
Okay, we all set? So this is a 6-page decision. I'm going to ask some people to assist me with it. So the applicant is Lucky Petroleum. It's a proposed construction of a 2,900 square foot retail structure with drive-through service, new gasoline pumps with a canopy, a new 32.4 square foot two-sided freestanding pole sign on an existing commercial lot with an existing 5,500 square foot commercial structure, former gasoline pumps to be removed, an existing sign, freestanding sign of 52 square feet, give or take, will remain. Existing driveways, parking areas, various signs, an existing two-family residential structure with a separate driveway and parking area. Detailed plans show site development, renovation, and striping of existing parking areas with defined pedestrian crossings and a sidewalk along the site's frontage. Attractive architecture, improvements to the existing structure's exterior, stabilization and landscaping. This proposal is required a site plan approval, and that's what this is. The location is Route 209, 6101 to 6117, Route 209. Total acres of 3.2 acres, and the zoning district is zoning district D. The applicant proposes site redevelopment via a site plan approval as described above. The parcel's current use is commercial and residential as described above. Proposed site plan sheet indicates a septic system area. The existing site plan and site demolition plan sheets identify an existing well to be abandoned. The parcel is located on Route 209, for which access is regulated by the New York State Department of Transportation. We determined seeker last time to be unlisted and coordinated and made a negative declaration at our meeting of May 9th of this year. Our code enforcement had previously determined it to need a site plan approval, which is what this is. And it's zoning 21 of 693 zoning permits issued last year. Referral agencies include Ulster County Planning Board and the Ag Court Fire Department. And I'll proceed with reading the decision. Whereas an application for site plan approval was submitted to the planning board for the project as follows. Application submitted by Qatar MSOL, agent for Lucky Petroleum Inc., project sponsor. Project sponsor, wherever used herein, shall mean and is intended to mean the applicant as identified in the above referenced application, its successors in interest or assignees as may be appropriate. The applicants pay their application fees and deposit monies into an escrow account to cover the consultant charges for the review of the project in accordance with the current fee schedule of the town of Rochester and agreement with the provisions of the code of the town of Rochester, chapter 140-63 of the code of the town of Rochester. The applicant submitted a 10-sheet set of drawings prepared by Qatar EPE, Vice President of Pretorius and Conrad, PC, Professional Engineering and Land Surveying Company, as more fully listed at the end of this resolution, which includes a plan sheet entitled Proposed Site Plan Prepared for Lucky Petroleum, which set also includes sheets depicting the existing site, the demolition plan, erosion and sedimentation control, lighting, landscaping, architecture, and site development details, and the application received by the planning board on 12/23/21. The application was referred by the planning board of the town of Rochester to the town consultant, planning and engineer, and the town planning board attorney. The materials reviewed are listed at the end of this resolution. The plans and other materials were received in accordance with the provisions of the code of the town of Rochester, chapter 140, zoning, article 7, section 140 through 144. .1 or 140-44.1 through 140-54 and 140-56 regarding site plan requirements and procedures, including bonding of site improvements and other zoning provisions and supplemental regulations regarding parking signs, landscaping, and lighting. And whereas the action is an unlisted action pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.4 and 617.5 of the implementing regulations pertaining to Article 8 of the Seeker State Environmental Quality Review Act of the Environmental Conservation Law, and the planning board concluded its review under Seeker by adopting a determination of non-significance, better known as the negative declaration, at its regular meeting on May 9, 2022. And whereas the planning board reviewed the application and all supporting documentation and information pursuant to the standards and criteria for site plan approval set forth in the Code of the Town of Rochester, Chapter 140 zoning, including all pertinent requirements and standards therein. And whereas the planning board opened and held a duly noticed public hearing on the completed application pursuant to Chapter 140 of our code, Section 140-48, on May 9, 2022, which hearing was continued and then closed on June 13, 2022. Our findings. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the town of Rochester makes the following findings about this project. The planning board received zoning determination and classification that the site plan is located in B zoning district and requires a site plan approval per correspondence from the code enforcement officer received December 23rd of 2021. Proposed site redevelopment with the application being processed as a site plan will result in the construction of a 2,900 square foot retail structure, new structure with drive-through service, new gasoline pumps with a canopy, a new 32 plus or minus square foot two-sided freestanding pole sign on an existing commercial lot, with the existing 5,500 square foot commercial structure, former gasoline pumps to be removed, an existing 52 plus or minus square foot two-sided freestanding pole sign, and existing driveways, parking area signs, and an existing two-family residential structure with a separate driveway and parking area. Detailed plans show site development, renovation, and striping of existing parking areas with defined pedestrian crossings and a sidewalk along the site's frontage, attractive architecture improvements to the existing structure's exterior, stabilization, and landscaping. The proposal was discussed at the regular meetings of the planning board held on January 10, 2022, March 14, 2022, April 11, 2022, May 9, 2022, and June 13, 2022, during which the planning board, its consultants, and the applicant's representative discussed the site's natural features, including site's topography, existing and proposed land uses, improvements, access, parking, architecture, lighting, and landscaping. And 3, in response to materials set forth by the applicants as well as the town's consultants, along with comments from the planning board, the board finds the following impacts and determinations based upon the most current plan dated December 16, 2021, including A, the site is already fully developed with the existing features described above, including existing commercial and residential uses, existing paved driveways and parking areas on the site, and as the site is proposed to be redeveloped as described above, including improvements to the exterior of the existing commercial building. Accordingly, due to the use and improvements of existing developed areas, there will be no change in or increase in stormwater runoff from the proposed site plan or other land development effects. And B, the proposed site development will comply with the B zoning district lot area and bulk requirements and pertinent site plan design standards and requirements. 4, applicant referred the project to the New York State Department of Transportation, and the board is in receipt of a response of March 28, 22. Response dealt only with matters of the sidewalk along Route 209. Matter has been dealt with by the applicant, and that they agreed to build the sidewalk once the town of Rochester decides that it wishes to see sidewalks in this area of Route 209. 5, applicant refers the project to New York State Parks and Recreation, better known as SHPO, by electronic submittal via the current Cultural Resource Info System, CRIS, and the planning board is in receipt of a response dated March 1st, 2022. SHPO replied back that the project would have no impact on any archaeological or historic resources listed in or eligible for New York State and National Register of Historic Places. Parenthetically, I don't think March 1st, 22 is when we received the response. Could somebody talk, could you, I think it was actually June 1st.
The response? No.
No.
Looking for ship over?
Yeah, so maybe I'm
I got
conflating.
328. Right?
Yeah, SHPO findings, 31.
Okay, 3122. Okay. Number 6, applicant submitted an agricultural data statement with an attached map showing agricultural lands contiguous to the applicant's parcel as required by the town of Rochester dated 2/28/22. Planning board finds this to be in order. 7, applicant wrote to and received back a letter from the Accord Fire Department dated April 6, 2022, stating that the project is suitable to the fire company and the fire company has no further comments. 8, board finds that the landscaping plan will be adequate with the additional plantings of small shrubs at the base of each of the 2 signs. In addition, the board will require surety to ensure that the landscaping is properly installed and maintained in accordance with the town of Rochester Code Section 14015B. Board finds 9, board finds that the addition of 4 EV charging stations is acceptable. 10, board held a public hearing on May 9th after first having made a secret determination that the project will have no significant impacts on the environment and therefore issuing a negative deck. Public hearing was left open until the next regular meeting of the board on June 13, 2022, at which time it was closed, so that's number 11. Public hearing, which was left open, was continued at the regular meeting of the board on the 13th, at which time it was closed. These findings have been prepared by the board and read and discussed at the meeting of June 13, 2022. The board hereby adopts these findings on June 13, 2022 for the following vote. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the findings.
I'll make the motion to approve the findings.
Sam makes the motion. Patrick. Sam, Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So we have, in agreement. So we have what, 6 ayes, no nays, no abstentions. Okay, waivers.
You want me to read it all or you good?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, waivers. 2 waivers were requested for the project. One dealing with parking requirements and the other dealing with square footage of the second 2 signs that will be on the property and which replaces one of the current signs. Waiver number 1, parking waiver. The submitted project plan set has been revised in response to the planning board and the board's planning consultant's comments, and generally in accordance with all the requirements, standards, and guidelines listed in zoning section 140-17A through J regarding parking, loading, access, and traffic standards. Parking calculations have been provided on plan sheet 4 of 10 of the proposed site plan sheet. The number of proposed non-residential spaces that may be counted for code requirements is 42, 34 standard plus 2 handicap spaces plus 6 at the pumps. Is 10 spaces less than the required number of non-residential parking spaces, which is 52. It should be noted that the spaces 6 for cars at the pumps do not meet the 10 by 20 foot parking space requirements. At the workshop meeting of May 9, 2022, a letter was submitted from applicant requesting the waiver. The waiver was granted. Waiver 2, sign waiver. The sign area for the proposed freestanding pole sign is 32.4 square feet, which is 0.4 square feet or 1.25% over the maximum allowed sign area of 32 square feet. Zoning section 140-47 waivers subsection E allows modification of standards in the zoning chapter of up to 10%. The board approved a waiver of sign square footage at the May 9th, 2022 regular meeting of the planning board. Sign is 15 feet high, which is within code. Note that the site already has an additional freestanding sign that the owner does not plan to remove or alter. The existing freestanding sign is 18 feet high and contains 4 business sign slots with a total area of 47 square feet. This sign is grandfathered into the plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the planning board of the town of Rochester reaffirms the following waivers granted on May 9th, 2022. One, a partial waiver of parking requirements, such as the total number of proposed non-residential parking spaces, 38. Include parking around the existing and proposed commercial buildings, 32, plus those located under the gas pump tank, 6, shown on the proposed site plan sheet. Provide sufficient parking for the proposed site development. And number 2, partial waiver to allow sign area that is 1.25% over the maximum allowed sign area of 32 square feet. The board hereby adopts the above described partial waiver of parking requirements and the above described partial waiver to allow additional sign area on June 13th, 2022 by the following vote. I'll make a motion to reaffirm the waivers.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? Can we just go back?
Yeah,
Does this add up?
yeah,
Number one,
32 plus 6 equals 38.
I put the waiver was to give them 42.
I thought the required was 42.
No,
Code
requirement was 52. We allowed you to have 10 less than that, or 42. The 42 is 34 standard, 2 handicapped, and 6 at the pumps. That's 42. So this 38 is not correct. So the 38 should be changed to 42.
Let's make sure we're matching what's actually on the plan. Oh, yeah, 42, 30.
So 30,
34 plus 2.
34 is standard,
2 handicap.
plus 6 under the pump, and 2 handicapped. So that gets you to the 42. So that number one I'm changing. So would you
Okay.
modify your,
Yeah, so I'm going to modify the motion I just made. Sorry.
Shouldn't it say, Rick, that the waiver is proposing to take the 10 spots away?
We're waiving the requirement.
For 10 spots.
Requirements so that they can have a lower release.
Okay, so then the space needs to be correct. Yeah,
and then
okay.
6 1 half doesn't
Sure.
come in.
Okay, so the partial waiver of parking requirements, such that the total number of proposed non-residential parking spaces will be 42, including parking around the existing proposed commercial building, which is
34.
30. Well, it's 36.
36 with the handicap.
Yeah, and then plus 6 under the canopy for a total.
That's
Okay, and then I'll
So you-
remove.
So you removed as the
I
first.
will move again to.
Zach, would you like to
I'll second.
second?
Remove as amended.
All as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? In favor, so 6 ayes, no nays, no abstentions.
Is there, you have an absent there.
One absent, which is Lorian.
Which is what I wrote in my.
Oh,
one
sorry.
absent.
one absent.
Shall I continue?
Have you done everything?
Not to go on this again, but it says non-residential.
It does.
Actually includes the residential.
It does?
Yeah.
No, because doesn't the residential has its own driveway?
No, I didn't figure, and the board wanted to. do the residential.
The 42, number 42 is the one.
The home has its own driveway with its own park.
You're not
On the
touching,
same
We excluded that on purpose.
you're not touching the residential.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
so,
just looking at the number of.
You just want to make sure the space.
so
Yeah, number 42 is right behind. the
that's what you have in
residential.
your grid, in your box grid?
In my box grid, I have, 21. So that was 17, so that's 38.
You have the handicap in that total for you?
Yeah, so parking analysis, table, existing vacant retail, 20.
So we got 20 for that, and then for the retail, we got 17.
So you're
That
counting,
includes the 600 pump. So that's 38 total. And then we got,
Oh, that's 37. You said 20 plus 17.
20.
21 plus 7.
if you look at the parking analysis table, it says 20 for existing vacant retail space, laundromat, 17, which includes the 6 at the front for the proposed retail, which is 37. And then it says 4 for the 2-family dwelling, which has a 41. Nope, none of us can count. We're all getting it wrong.
Well, we got all numbers.
So you want 37 or you want 38?
So Katal, which is it?
I think 39 through 42 is just actually 3 spaces. 21 through 38 is, you know why? Because 21 through 38 is actually 19 spaces.
Can we just give a waiver for less than is required?
I agree.
Yeah, how
About
about what's
that?
shown on the plan?
What is shown on the plan?
But letter was saying we just need 10 spaces later.
That's why I said, I think we should just
Exactly.
waive the 10.
Just waive the
That we're
10.
General applies to
Right.
everything because the residential is not there, so the only difference is 10 spaces.
But I do think now, the space 21 through 38 is 18 spaces, not 7.
Okay, so you not just corrected.
Yeah.
It's still 38 without the
Right,
residential.
right.
At least you're gonna need toes.
So
Why
what
don't
we
we-
originally approved is correct. It's a bit between 52 and 42, right?
Yes.
So we're good.
Yes.
The grid, your grid, Katal needs updating.
The number 17 should just say
It
18.
should be
Yeah.
18.
Easy.
Okay.
But, so now we do, of course, need to go back and edit it. Everyone's gonna fall asleep here.
Are you still?
It just needs to take out the non-residential. The number of proposed spaces may be counted. So just take out non-residential. And
Total number of proposed parking spaces. Get rid of the
Leave
word
out
non-residential.
non-residential.
Just keep it 38.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to remove my previous move, and now I'm going to move
The third
Yeah.
time.
Amend,
Go ahead.
Okay, you're gonna amend the amended.
Yeah.
I lost track and I'm looking at the draft.
All right, so you,
Give
your amendment is,
I think, yeah, we're just taking out the word
Word
non-residential.
non-residential. Basically keeping it as is and taking out the word non-residential.
okay. So no,
You want to second that again?
I'll second that again.
and let's just read
All in
on it.
favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No.
And one absent.
Moving, next time.
Okay, moving right along. Ulster County Plan.
Ulster County Planning Board, whereas the planning board referred the application for review by the Ulster County Planning Board pursuant to New York State General Municipal Law, Section 239, and whereas the planning board received recommendations on the application from the Ulster County Planning Board on May 4th, 2022, and acted at a workshop meeting on May 24th, 2022 as follows. Comment 1 from the Ulster County Planning Board, the applicant is proposing to modify existing curb cuts and traffic patterns for the site. Truck turning templates have been provided. The site also indicates the proposed drive-through with no vendor name supplied and a 2 of 9 vehicles. The plan also indicates a future sidewalk along the frontage. Required modification. The applicant will need to obtain a commercial highway work permit from NISDOT for the proposed mod. The vendor for the drive-through will need to be identified to help with calculations regarding peak queue lengths and what impacts those queues will have at peak hours of operation from both the internal traffic movement perspective as well as potential impacts on the state route. The proposed sidewalk in the state right-of-way will also require review of NISDOT, as will any additional plantings. The use of additional street trees along the frontage, provided they do not obstruct site distances, is recommended. The town planning board response to required modification 1 is obtain a commercial work permit from NISDOT. Obtaining a commercial highway work permit for NISDOT shall be a condition of approval before a certificate of occupancy is issued. And any and all other agencies, permits, or approvals which are currently required or any which may be determined in the future to be required in conjunction with the construction and/or operation of this use shall be secured or renewed as applicable. Should any conditions imposed by other agency permits cause conditions to be in conflict, the more restrictive conditions shall prevail. Is a standard condition of approval. Ulster County Planning Board required transportation modification number 1 is accepted and adopted May 24th, 2022 by the following votes. Everyone was in favor.
Hey, Sam, Chair, do we have to read this since it was
I was gonna
posted
say,
on the draft?
We can
And these were all items that were voted on previously?
In the public,
I don't think.
we don't have to. I don't
Great.
think.
I think we could
So
go,
we'll jump to the conditions because we don't have to vote on this.
Is
that's
anybody
what I'm
in
saying,
here?
there's nothing to vote on, so,
Is anybody here in here a lawyer?
and there's nothing here.
I think we can talk about
No,
it.
we don't need to, we already
We don't
read
have to
them
read the
and let's
conditions.
do them with open.
Okay,
Okay.
so by voice vote, would you like to rattle, not read all of this?
And I don't think we need to read the conditions, do we?
Yeah, we need to
And then
read
you
the
read
conditions.
the conditions.
You're asking that we not read the
Ulster County Planning
Ulster
Board
County,
comments.
we already did that. So I'll entertain a motion to skip reading the Ulster County Planning Board recommendations in our response to it.
So moved.
I
Second,
second it.
Mary, all in favor?
Yeah,
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
On the conditions.
And
conditions of
one-
approval. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Rochester Planning Board hereby grants site plan conditional approval of the proposed site plan development at the site situated at 6101 through 6117 US Route 209, a public highway for Huntington, New York, as depicted on the 10 sheets that are submitted drawings prepared by Qatar Alma Salama. How do you say your name? I'm sorry.
Elma Salma.
Alma Salma. PE Vice President Pretorius and Conrad PC Professional Engineering and Land Surveying, as more fully listed at the end of this resolution, as described in more detail here and above, subject to satisfactory compliance with the following conditions. Number one, revise the plan set to include notation requiring lights to be dimmed 50% after 11 p.m. until opening the next morning. Number two, revise the plan set to include notation specifying when the sidewalk will be built as per requirements and standards of and in coordination with the permitting procedures of the New York State Department of Transportation. Number three, provide an estimate of the cost of required site improvements to initiate the process of establishing a performance guarantee for landscaping in accordance with the code of the Town of Rochester, Chapter 140, zoning section 140-15E. Following review of the estimate by the planning board's consulting engineer, an amount shall be recommended to the planning board for the establishment of, quote, a performance guarantee in a form acceptable to the town attorney in the amount of 125% of the cost of materials and installation may be required to assure that all landscaping survived in a healthy condition for 1 full year following planting, end quote. Number four, revise the plan set to clearly show curb ramps for the sidewalk crossings, specifically add the ladder hatch crosswalk marking for the western driveway on sheets 4, 5, 6, and 7. 5, revise the plan set to refer to and provide a detail for the proposed ladder hatch crossway marking. 6, revise plan sheet 3 of 10, the site demolition plan, corresponding to item number 11, to specify the size of the existing underground tank proposed to be removed near the rear of the developed area of the site. 7, revise plan sheet 4 of 10, proposed site plan to specify the size of the new underground tank proposed to be installed under the proposed gas pump canopy, which is required to be the same size as the tank to be removed. 8, revise the plan set to add the separately submitted illustration entitled Existing Multi-Business Freestanding Sign to Remain of the approximately 52 square foot existing sign that will remain on the site as a detail in the plan set and add reference to the same sheet on sheet 4. 9, revise the plan set to add reference on sheet 4 to the proposed sign detail on sheet 10. Revise plan sheet 4 of 10, proposed site plan to provide a sign area table to demonstrate compliance with the total of the existing and proposed signs with the 100 square foot aggregate standard, noting any waiver of existing non-compliant conditions. 11, revise landscaping plans to show low shrubbery at base of signs. 12, a proposed well must be indicated on the site plan set. 13, correct the tax parcel identification number on all plan sheets where it is listed to 1, 2, and 4 of 10 to read 76.1-3-28.100 and to delete reference to SB 76.1.5-3-28.1. 14, Ulster County Department of Health approval is required. 15, New York State Department of Transportation approval is required. 16, the project sponsor shall reimburse the Town of Rochester for all costs incurred by the town for the review of this site plan proposal. The final plat for the site plan will not be stamped and signed by the planning board chair unless and until all appropriate costs incurred by the town for the customary and necessary review have been paid for by the applicant by either means of the escrow account established at the initial application stage or by a check payable to the Town of Rochester. 17, the owner's consent block shall be signed and dated by the owners following the date of the last revision and prior to the chair signing the plans. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants site plan conditional approval upon satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1 through 17 above. Be it further resolved that the Town of Rochester Planning Board hereby grants site plan conditional approval of the proposed site plan development at the site situated at 6107-6117 US Route 1009, as described here and above, subject to satisfactory compliance with the following conditions, such that the required modification, all permits and approvals from other agencies must be in place before a project receives a certificate of occupancy. Number one, all local, county, state, and federal laws or codes shall be complied with for the current or future use of these lands. Two, any and all other agencies' permits or approvals which are currently required or any which may be determined in the future to be required in conjunction with the construction and or operation of this use shall be secured or renewed as applicable. Should any conditions imposed by other agency permits cause conditions in conflict, the more restrictive condition shall prevail. The facility owner shall specifically comply with federal and New York State DEC regulations for underground tank removal and replacement before a certificate of occupancy shall be issued. Effect of approval. This special use and site plan approval and associated conditions shall be binding upon the applicant and all successive owners of the land so long as such uses shall occur. This approval shall remain effective as an authorization to secure the required permits and establish the uses for a maximum of 1 year from this date of approval, unless the applicant shall have submitted written request and the planning board shall have adopted such resolution granting an extension and provided the applicant has submitted proof of having diligently pursued the implementation of the plans. I make a motion to adopt.
Just one thing, if you don't mind, number 12 on those conditions. We cannot show up at the cold well location at this stage. You just make that because also County Department of Health approval is required, that includes the well and the septic. Site has 3 wells currently, you might not need a third well.
Yeah.
You might be able to look at one of the two.
I guess, yeah, I guess the thing I didn't,
We just put it with the health department.
but can you show the existing wells?
The existing, well, the other two.
I just don't remember seeing wells on the plan, and that's why I thought you were having some.
We know there's wells, but we're just not
They're
aware
not,
of
I
it.
just don't know where they are, but he's not gonna get his food permit for that. Off the county plan board approval.
And
So
you
you
just-
did list that in here.
Can you say a well location?
I guess you'll figure out which well you're gonna use eventually. Eventually. Oh, you want the map?
Well,
signed, I
it's
see what
just
you're
that, what I'm saying that if you list all the
The word
conditions,
proposed is that the problem? In other words, a well must be indicated on the site.
that means like, just like the septic, we don't know, it's
Right.
gonna be part of the whole department
I mean,
approval.
technically, you just.
So why don't we just say, why don't we make number 12?
Why don't you just get rid
Adequate-
of 12?
Rid of it all.
Yeah.
Adequate water, an adequate water supply for the project must be provided as approved by Ulster County Health Department. How's that sound?
You say,
Okay,
Ulster,
so-
Ulster
so-
Health,
so-
Ulster,
You've got Ulster County
You already have
Department of
it.
Health
You already have it.
approval
Yeah, right.
there. and
Number
that's gonna be
14.
well and septic.
It's
Get
gonna
rid of
cover,
it.
gonna cover both.
Yeah, number
Okay,
12.
so I'm looking for a proposal from somebody. What do you want to?
Get rid of it. Get rid of it.
Remove number 12.
And so that's gonna be numbered 13.
So all the numbers move up.
So it's
Yep.
gonna end up being 1 through 16.
Okay,
And then just one little thing, this New York State Department of Transportation approval, I don't know if they want an approval or just a permit.
Permit,
permit.
how about permit?
He's gonna apply for a permit.
I mean, I don't know what it,
It's a commercial,
Yep.
it's a commercial.
Permit's the right word. So let's change the permit. I just have one addition to number 3, condition number 3. The applicant has agreed to place 12,500 in some form of escrow for the landscaping.
But we have that on
don't
number.
we need an estimate. They need,
Well, I
they,
just
what
gave
they
it to
do
you.
is, no, I mean, they need to provide a written estimate.
He's gonna get that to
And
us.
it's
Right,
other-
so, but we don't, I don't think we need an amount, because it might be different. It might
He
be
might-
less, it might be more.
Rick knows his price to choose.
Well, so how about we need something, we need an estimate from the applicant.
It
Right,
says
and
that
that's
in
what this
there.
says.
Says that in it already.
Says You gotta provide an estimate.
You don't, you won't sign it until you're happy with it.
So
Yeah,
that's all, we
don't
just need an
I don't
estimate.
think we need an amount
Yes,
there,
you
because we
gotta
don't
need
know.
Okay,
we don't need, and. it can
all right,
just
I
be
withdraw
asked
my
for.
request for a change to number 3.
You have a motion. you said.
There's a
Now
motion?
I move to adopt these conditions of approval as amended.
I just want to see the removal.
Sam,
through
makes the
16.
motion.
Yeah, the removal of number 12 such that the number subsequent to 12 all decreased by 1, and where it's at 1 through 17 now it's 1 through
Second,
16.
Patrick? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? None? one exit.
All right.
Okay, you have your approval.
All right, thank you.
We're gonna miss you.
So,
And Liz will work tomorrow on. those few
I wrote on my draft because I gave my original, but it's
Okay.
okay. You will help me.
so you're not gonna sign the plans until all these conditions.
I'm not gonna sign the plan until you get us
Approve
Updated
it.
map.
updated maps. The map needs to say final site plan.
On the Mylar.
You submit it, we'll turn it around.
Or,
to fit all your
you know, but the
conditions.
conditions, I mean, we want the health department approval, all that first. You know, see a permit first. Because I didn't see a building permit, for example, but there is a thing that says just in all permits from,
But
That's a
for-
standard.
That's for certificate of compliance. There's sort of two
That's what we did.
sections. There's 1 through 16 that is to get
Us have.
the planning board to sign.
We'll talk to them tomorrow.
And you don't have to do it all at once, you can, however.
whatever, as
If
long as
you've
you
got
can keep
stuff you
moving, then
want
that's
checked
fine.
off the list.
Now you can get a building.
We're gonna miss you seeing you.
Yeah, same here.
I'm not gonna-
Thank you.
I'm gonna drive it out.
All right. Have a great
Bye.
night.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the project 2-lot subdivision by Gail and Andrew Canada on Upper Whitfield Road. We have a public hearing. The Canadas want to approach the dais. Does anybody want to maps?
No.
No, so no?
Nope. We're good if you're good.
I'm good. We have to do seeker before we open the public hearing. So there is in either your Google, Google Drive, the seeker part 2 and 3. Everybody got it? Mark, you got it?
Yep.
Would the board permit me to simply say number 1 through 11 has been submitted as no or small impact? Simply acknowledge that, and then go to section 3. I don't think there's any legal requirement to reach with each one of them. If we needed a discussion, if anybody has any discussion, I'm open.
It doesn't hurt to
Okay,
read
so
the
we're moving
blurb
on.
in part 3.
Number 3, determination of significance. The determination of significance is that there is either no or small or moderate. The determination is that there's either no impact or small impact as a result of the project. No impacts are anticipated to occur as the proposal is a minor 2-lot subdivision with a driveway. It's not a shared driveway.
It is a shared driveway.
Well, it is a
It's a
shared
shared
driveway. We just
driveway.
don't need the agreement. That's right. So it is a shared driveway. No land development or disturbance is proposed. So I'll entertain a motion to declare this as an unlisted, uncoordinated, and negative deck.
No.
Go
A
ahead.
negative declaration, because we already
Secret
declared it.
determination. not secret.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for a negative declaration. And this is a roll call. Well, after I get the motion.
So I'll make the motion.
Mark makes the
I'll
motion.
second.
Now we need a roll call.
Sam, you second?
Yep.
Okay. Roll call. Patrick?
Yes.
Sonia is out. Sam?
Yeah.
Mary?
Yep.
Mark?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
And I, the chair votes yes also. So the motion declares a negative deck is so ordered. Lauren, anything else I need to do for the secret?
No, not for this.
Okay, good. So let's open the public hearing. There are sheets that you need to sign in the back of the room if anybody would like to talk about this project. I don't know if anybody's signing. Anybody do all blank? Okay, so
Check the only one.
this is a 2-lot subdivision, as I mentioned. The Kennedys are here for the board. Anybody from the public like to speak about the project?
Motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Anybody, everybody in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay,
Moving on.
so we have a decision. I was gonna say it's approved, but it's not approved decision. You have a decision in your Google Drive. I'm gonna read through this. Sam, I think I can make it through.
All right, yeah, this one's not.
I can, if you want, I can do it.
I was gonna say,
I'll jump in. Keep rotating.
All right, Mary, why don't you dust off your old,
That's what my old reading. All right, this is the.
Are you done?
Yep.
we're gonna read through the decision.
This is decision planning board 2022-02 subdivision, minor subdivision, conditional final approval for Gail and Andrew. Canada is a subdivision of current plus or minus 14.89 acre parcel with 2 lots, lot 1 plus or minus 2.02 acres and lot 2 plus or minus 12.87 acres. The location is 195 Upper Whitfield Road in Acworth, New York, and a zoning district R2, SPL is 68, spot 4-2-9. It was a seeker unlisted and voided negative declaration on June 13, 2022. Code enforcement determination was a minor subdivision. It was 22nd. It was the 36th of 2022. There were no other agency referrals, and EAF was filed 3/24/2022.
I don't think so.
Can we just go to conditions? No,
You could,
you can just go. to
I don't know how you guys usually, I know how you guys usually, but you can kind of just quickly summarize. That's fine.
All right,
Just
our
say-
findings, whereas an application for subdivision approval was submitted to the planning board for the project as follows. The applicant paid the application fee, deposited money in the escrow account to cover the consulting charges for the review of the project in accordance with the current fee schedule and agreement with the provisions of section 125-19 town of Rochester subdivision code and section 140-63 of the code of the town of Rochester. The applicant submitted drawings. The applicant was accepted by the planning board of the town of Rochester, March 25th, 2022, and the applicant was referred by the planning board of the town of Rochester to the town consulting planner and to the town planning board attorney. Whereas the action is unlisted action pursuant to 617.4 and 617.5 of the implementing regulations between Article 8 of seeker. Planning board conducted review by adopting determination of non-significant negative declaration as regular meeting on June 30th, 2022. Whereas the planning board reviewed the application, all supporting documentation, information pursuant to the standards and criteria of subdivision approval set forth in the code of the town of Rochester, chapter 125, subdivision of land, and pertinent requirements and standards from chapter 124 zoning. And whereas planning board held a duly noted public hearing on the completed application pursuant to chapter 125. Findings. Now therefore it resolved, planning board of the town of Rochester makes the following findings. Proposed 2-lot subdivision would result in 2 new lots, with 1 lot for an existing single-family home and a 2nd lot for a new single-family home. Discussed at regular meetings on April 11th, May 9th, and June 13th, during which the planning board its consultant and the applicants, and that the applicants, we can take representative, because the applicants are representative themselves. Discuss the site's land use and active features, including site topography and access. The site is partially developed with the following existing features: 1 existing single-family home, a barn, septic system, and an accessory well. Subdivision resulting in the creation of the new 2-acre plus or minus lot for a new home, garage, well, and septic. Accordingly, there will be a minor proposed change in increase in land development and a corresponding minor change in slight increase in stormwater runoff from the proposed subdivision. The lot will comply with the R2 zoning district lot area and bulk requirements and pertinent subdivision design standards. These findings have been prepared by the board, read and discussed. We'll discuss in seconds at the meeting of June 13th. Any discussion? We'll let you.
Entertain a motion to approve the findings.
That works.
We'll make
Zach,
them
you move.
exact
I'll make the
same
motion.
motion. You second.
Sure.
Who seconds? Marty?
All
All
in
in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah, in favor.
Anybody opposed? One absent. Okay. I'll read the conditions for
Okay.
approval. Conditions of approval. Now therefore be it resolved, the town of Rochester Planning Board hereby grants minor subdivision conditional final approval of proposed 2-lot subdivision situated at 195 Upper Whitfield Road, Acworth, New York. as depicted on the preliminary plan showing subdivision of lands of Andrew Gale, Canada, prepared by Ebony Civil Engineering and Land Surveyors, dated April 6, 2022, revised April 22nd, 2022, subject to satisfactory compliance with the following conditions. 1. Project sponsor shall reimburse the town of Rochester for all costs incurred by the town for the review of this subdivision proposal. The final plan for this subdivision will not be stamped nor signed by the planning board chair unless and until all appropriate costs incurred by the town for the customary and necessary review have been paid for by the applicant by either means of the escrow account established at the initial application stage or by check payable to the town of Rochester. 2. The applicant shall present a final plan for signature that includes the following plan notes. A, no further subdivision of this parcel is permitted without the prior approval of the planning board. B, no further flag lot creation will be allowed on either of these lots. 3, condition 3, revise the preliminary plan showing subdivision of lands of Andrew and Gale, Canada to be entitled final plan showing the subdivision of lands of Andrew and Gale, Canada. 4, the owner's consent block shall be signed and dated by the owners following the date of last revision and prior to the chair signing the plot. 5, the owner shall drill the well on lot 1 and secure the approval from the Ulster County Department of Health prior to the planning board chair's signature on the subdivision plat, providing the planning board with evidence that the well has been drilled. And just as a reminder, just make all the lines, it's not here as a condition, but we talked about all the lines in the plan need to be the same color. I know it's.
No, I have that. We already addressed that.
Okay. This minor subdivision conditional final approval shall expire 180 days from this approval date unless the final plan is presented and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods upon application to a resolution by the town of Rochester Planning Board. The town of Rochester Planning Board further grants minor subdivision conditional final approval upon satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1 through 5 above. The effect of the approval. 1, the owner shall file in the office of the Ulster County Clerk such approved plot bearing the chairman's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature of the chair, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law, Section 276. The owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the file plat and any other related documents to the town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such filing. I'll entertain a motion to.
I have some additions because we should be consistent with all of our applications.
Go ahead.
We should put the right to farm
On the,
on the map.
Okay, so you want that to be condition 6.
So the map notes as of that are on the application tracker, which should be to the right to farm, which is pretty standard, this property may border a farm, blah, blah, blah. If it's on the application tracker, the exact verbiage there. I would also say that shared driveway should be the verbiage that we use in all other applications, which is the planning board approves the use of the shared driveway shown in this plat to serve no more than 2 single-family dwellings via access from a shared driveway to the establishment of right of way. The shared driveway shall be utilized for no more than 3 single-family dwellings or lots including a lot that is access over. I realize it doesn't apply to this, but if they ever want to sell it to somebody else, I would tell them that they could not do any more and let's always
That's
put.
fine, I
That's our goal.
just don't let that.
okay, the shared driveway,
This is in the app, I can give all of this. This is the shared, that's our
So
standard
it's the
shared driveway.
application tracker, right to farm note and the
And the
application
shared driveway,
tracker,
and then also the flag lot notes,
shared driveway.
shared driveway, map notes,
Notes,
and then the flag lot,
map notes.
right, the flag lot restriction map note.
Flag
So
lot
it's
restriction.
what you have there, it's just more fleshed out, it basically says,
Notes,
no more than 1 flag lot shall be created from the existing parcel. The plot is not capable of being subdivided further or so restricted. Should any application be made for additional dwelling units in excess of 3 single-family dwellings, the shared driveway approval shall be revoked. So that's directly from our code.
so we're adding, I think,
6, 7, and
condition
8.
6, the shared driveway is 2 notes.
The shared driveway is
It's
1
one
note. Well, on 2A, the plan, you can just put it all under 2A. You don't need to add any more.
Oh, I
A,
see.
no further
I'm so
subdivision.
sorry.
B becomes our flag lot note that we standardly use. C becomes the right to farm, and D becomes the shared driveway map note.
Okay,
They all stay just, those are
So
all
it's gonna
plan
be
notes.
2A through D.
Yes.
Okay.
and that leaves that, and then the conditions are still 1 through 5. so
Exactly.
6,
Gotcha.
7.
Okay.
All right, that works better. Thank you, man. Where were we with the,
Motion as amended by Maureen's
Yeah.
standard.
you have a question?
Number 5, the owner shall drill a well on lot number 1, secure approval of the Ulster County Department of Health prior to you signing this and saying it's okay. I mean, we don't even, Board of Health is still waiting for their approval.
Why do we need the approval of the well already? I thought that was if there was a previous house already constructed and they were breaking a shared well that we need to do, like we did
No,
at.
we request that we have to show proof that there's water and that it can sustain septic. So that could be before obtaining a CO, perhaps we usually say, because the idea is we're not supposed to grant a subdivision, let's pretend that you went and tried, the Department of Health, whatever, and couldn't get any water. So then we shouldn't be allowing somebody to, for your benefit, to subdivide something, to have something and say, and then you don't have any water and you can't do it.
So the note should say, the owner shall show
A valid
approval by Ulster County Board of Health for both
new
septic
line.
and water.
For the new lot.
So what you said earlier won't happen. I go get these revised, bring them back to the fold, you won't sign them until the Board of Health signs off on it. Is that what you're saying?
How about at the CO, at the time of CO?
No, I mean,
That's true.
That's
Pretty
true.
much
Yeah,
true.
That's gonna
Yes.
take months.
you get 180 days on that.
We need something from the Board of Health before I sign that.
I'm just waiting on them to reply to Bob Mayer.
septic, though, not the well.
Well, that, where
They
the
do
septic goes
do that
determines where the well.
Lauren, how do we do this?
The other thing that you can get is that you can get, if Medenbach managers will send a letter, you would say, you can put the standard language, once again, that was in our code, is either a letter certified, an engineer certifying that there is adequate water and septic. So Medenbach connectors could write a letter saying that they could do some test holes and they think that,
Well, we've already done the test holes.
then if they send a
Wait, the
letter.
test holes were septic.
Septic.
Septic test holes and the perk test was done, passed.
So if they will say that they can, it can support septic, and then also that they believe that the strata of the geological strata, or whatever, that is able to support a well. Or if a well guy says he believes they will support a well, then that will take a certified
Stamped letter.
letter from somebody, as opposed to waiting
From
for the Department
somebody.
of Health.
Registered engineer.
Yes, by a
somebody.
registered engineer, yes.
So it still needs 2 things. You need to show evidence that the septic is approved by Ulster County. Department of Health.
County right
It's out there right
Or
And you need to provide us with a letter from an engineer, a licensed engineer, that there is adequate water.
Or drill the well.
Prior to bringing the 5 paper copies and 1 Mylar.
You can bring
First,
them.
you have to address it.
Well, no, because they wouldn't be, you wouldn't know where they are.
They need to be on. You need to show the approximate location of a well and the location of the septic. I need a letter from an engineer that says if there's water on the property,
Or you drilled the
or
well.
they drill the well.
But just, the steps after the board gives their approval, then they submit to address the conditions. It gets reviewed.
I can't hear you, Liz, I'm sorry.
No, we don't re-review it. Once they did, well, it's reviewed by the chair. Then it's reviewed by
Okay,
the
that's
board.
fine,
If-
but
if
I'm just trying to
conditions
walk
is-
them through the basic
So we don't have to
steps.
come back to.
You have to come back to the meeting.
The
Well,
conditions that I
okay.
just, let's not confuse it. The conditions that I just gave you, I'll look to make sure that you give me a letter from an engineer that says there's water on the property. And I'll be looking for something from the Department of Health that says the septic's been approved. And that needs to be on the map. The location of a well, or the drilled well, and the location of the septic needs to be on the map. If that's on the map that you give me and the letter from the engineer and something from the Department of Health, if you give me that, I'll sign the map.
It has to be rewritten, it has to be.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the decision has to be
Be
written, so
rewritten.
I wanna make sure I know what you want.
And sign, that's where they
I know,
can do
just
it.
like.
Now, I know,
Not when we build the house, if it was our land already, we built the house, would we have to give us septic approval and a well approval before we
Just
could
for
build a
the
house?
permit.
No.
No,
Then why do we have to do it?
because
Because
we're
we're
letting,
creating a new
right, we're
lot.
creating a new lot.
And in order to create the new lot, you have to meet certain conditions that are outlined in
So
the
we can just
town
build
law.
on this ourselves because it's our lot until we set the home without.
no, you don't think you do.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
hypothetically could have built this house before you came to us, had a septic and well installed, and then said, hey, I want to share a driveway with my daughter, and the house is already done, and we've been in and out of here.
We can make it.
Well, that's why you
25 dash
can't get one.
All right, so you,
It's gonna change.
do you know what you need?
So we're editing,
Now we're
editing
editing
number
number
5.
So,
So,
One
Liz,
person at a time.
125
125
dash
20.
25 water supply B is the verbiage that you want to change here.
125
That's
25,
25 B.
okay,
And that says plans and specifications for central water system, i.e. extension of an existing water or proposed new facility shall be prepared by a professional engineer and shall conform to requirements of the Ulster County Department of Health and the local fire district. Suitable agreements shall also be established for the ownership and maintenance of such distribution system. That's if you were sharing one. Okay.
and that's gonna be a new condition, or is
Well,
that gonna
I
be a
think-
plan?
What we need to
That's a
say
new
on number
condition.
5 is the owner shall provide evidence that the lot is capable of supporting water either in the form of an already drilled well or in the form of a letter from a licensed engineer, a stamped letter from the licensed.
We was a well, like, not too far away.
But that's the issue, right? Because say your neighbor wants to subdivide and they put in more wells and then no one's wells work. That's why we have to make sure
Right.
We want to make sure you have water.
and that it doesn't
They
impact.
can do
Liz,
that
you got all
without
that?
doing a well. Okay, let's-
Was 125-25.
No, I have that. I
Okay.
think that it's gonna say the owner shall provide evidence in the form of a drilled well or
Or-
certification by an engineer. And
Stamped
then I
letter
think,
from
what?
it. It needs to be a stamped letter. So if the
yeah, because
engineer.
the well driller isn't available until sometime in September.
So Liz,
In
read back what you
accordance
have.
with 125-25.
Right.
That sounds good, and that's a new condition, or is that
That's
in
replacing
lieu
number 5.
of?
Now, what if I got a report from the well driller who's also a Dowser? Would that be sufficient?
No,
That's not an engineer.
2 coat hangers and
Yeah.
the sun out, right?
all right, Liz, you got all that?
I got 5, and then I believe 2 is going to be
We did 2 already.
A and B, and then there's
A,
gonna be a
B,
C and
C
D,
and
and I'll
D.
grab those from the track.
So we got through that.
I go online and.
All right, so where are we with the approval? With the,
You will get a
already,
copy of the final.
Martin, we need a motion, right?
A
Those
motion,
conditions,
a motion to approve
conditions as right.
the conditions as amended
Amendment.
for 2 to add our standard map notes, making it A, B, and then as
Revising.
amended to revise the stipulation as well as the number 5.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
so Sam makes the motion. Mark, you made the second.
Yep.
So after the board is provided.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
One absent.
Anyone absent?
Go ahead, Liz, what were you saying?
You want to ask your question?
Well,
I
Please tell
I
me.
think I can answer you, if the board will allow me. That the board has just done this vote, I will provide them finalized resolution, chairman will sign, and then we will be provided a copy. Absolutely.
Okay, so I can go ahead and get my plan copies and all that, the letter and bring it.
Yeah, what, well,
Well, you.
some of what
you
we're gonna
address-
have, some of what we're gonna have in the resolution, we're gonna need to have put on the map.
Okay, so I have to
So
wait for.
wait
Wait
for
for
the
Nicole to
Wait for
give
the
you the
decision.
decision,
As well.
which won't be long.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Don't get the map.
This is the-
Okay, thank you. You got your. All righty.
Right.
Next on the agenda is honeycomb.
Rick, it's 8:04. I'll recuse myself.
Okay,
I'm gonna recuse myself.
so we'll note that Mark and Zach recused themselves at 8:04. Sit me out.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna slide.
John, how are you? Right. Lucy, I know you had a few small comments.
I had provided you with a badly annotated, because our system was a mess. So I did give everybody a new neg deck,
Is there anything in what you gave us that we need to talk about tonight?
not really,
Okay, then
because
we don't need to talk about
you have to do neg deck.
You have to vote on it.
We have-
it.
we have-
Eventually, we have to do that, yeah, but I just want to know.
Before we open the public hearing, we must.
Yeah.
We'll do the
That's
secret.
And that's where you get the neg deck by doing secret or a pod check,
So,
depending on what you see in secret.
Okay,
so
so,
you have that,
right,
We
and
need to
then
do
I
that.
did do an updated memorandum today, just to show that there's really almost nothing left.
Yep, I saw that.
And the items that are left are conditions.
so,
They will be.
Gotcha.
so does everybody have the secret form available? Part 2 and part 3? And Liz, am I working with the one that's all red marked? Or is there?
Yeah.
This is the one that I did today, and all I did was cross out some of the things that were much too much. So if you go. Yeah, that's it. You have the right one. See what says 613.
Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. I'm going to ask the board's permission to simply say that 1 through 11 has been covered, that there's either no or small impact may occur. as a
Number
result.
10 does have a moderate to large impact, with it,
Yes, you're right.
so we should probably,
Okay, so let me, and number 1, there was a star there
and a
also.
small impact also for one.
So let me read through them. I'll take that back. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan and zoning regulations? And what I have written here, the proximity of proposed improvements to wetlands and watercourses is not consistent with the 2006? Is that what that says?
Yes.
Comprehensive plan objectives, including stream bank protection, page 9 of that. So, but it's still rated as no or small
Small impact.
impact. 2, will the proposed action result 2 through 9? There's no or small impact, so I want the board to acknowledge that, if that's okay. Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems, moderate to large impact? Regarding the response to question number 10 above, higher land disturbance and construction and land disturbance are proposed that require that drainage, stormwater management practices, and erosion and sedimentation control practices be shown on the subdivision plans to demonstrate how runoff and potential erosion will be managed to prevent erosion and sedimentation impacts on the proposed home sites and on-site wet areas, which include a spring, a stream, swale, and a classified stream and buffer areas related to all noted wet areas and water courses. The classified stream is the one in the back, down the gully. Part 3. A small impact was noted regarding construction on land near wetlands where the depth of the water table was less than 3 feet and there were water courses. The site plans properly show a 100-foot wetland buffer on both sides of the brook, a swale on the spring, and a low wet area. However, some limited disturbance is necessary within 100 feet of the spring and a low wet area in order to construct 4 proposed driveways to the existing town road, which existing road is adjacent to the spring and low wet area. The plans include a typical home site soil erosion and sediment control detail for individual lot, stormwater runoff practices, and erosion sedimentation control measures that will mitigate disturbance impacts, will generally mitigate disturbance impacts, which would be protective of the spring and a low wet area. A moderate impact was noted regarding the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems on the site. Which is also a concern due to the 100-foot wetland buffer on both sides of a brook, a swale, and a spring, and a low wet area noted above. The impact is noted as moderate, given that prior site disturbances occurred. Prior site disturbance does not appear to be stabilized. The plans include a typical home site soil erosion sediment control detail for individual lot stormwater runoff practices and erosion sedimentation control measures that will mitigate disturbance impacts generally, which will be protective of the spring and low wet area as well. So in terms of what was noted on number 1 and number 10, what we have from our consultant is an indication that it's small and moderate, and that the plans as presented mitigate any of the concerns. Then that, is that correct?
Yes,
Yes.
and the typical building site, soil and erosion control details on it.
Okay. All right, so
Pretty nice.
I'll entertain a negative declaration.
Well,
Um,
so basically, we've determined based on the information analysis above, any supporting documentation for this action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts, hence the negative declaration.
negative
I'll
deck.
make a motion for a negative deck.
Second. Patrick, I heard you second it.
And a roll call.
Patrick is in second. Roll call. Patrick? Yes. Sorian is absent. Sam?
Yes.
Lauren?
Yep.
Chair, yes. And Mr. Grasso and Zach have both recused themselves. So the motion is approved. That this is a negative declaration. Okay, at which time we'll open the public hearing. There's a sign-in sheet up here on the right-hand side if anybody wants to.
Looks blank.
Okay. If anybody wants to speak, the rules, the general rules are we ask you to limit your comments to 5 to 7 minutes. If your comments are duplicative of somebody else who's already spoken, we ask you to keep it short or say something to the effect referencing the prior speaker. So is there anybody in the audience that'd like to speak on clinical health?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
Like, you all in favor? Aye.
Wait, I asked if there's any discussion.
Oh, we still have to, we have still,
No, the discussion
You can
comes before
discuss.
voting.
before,
Well, there's discussion.
If there's anybody's discussion, we're not going to vote on it.
Before we
So-
do the motion.
oh, discussion about closing the public hearing or
Yes.
discussion? I have no discussion about closing the public hearing, I have discussion about the application.
Okay, so closing the public hearing, there's no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Or so ordered. Okay. I'll open the floor to the board for any discussion about the project. Lauren, you said you had some comments.
My first is, I think from everything you said, are we all dialed in? We're all okay now on what we need for this storm
Yeah,
drainage,
let
the
me
basic SWIP will be,
let me
not
try
a
to
basic
summarize.
SWIP, a soil erosion, your basic
Drainage profile.
drainage profile.
Let me try to summarize where we're at. And
I tried to follow it, but I started to get a little.
yeah, it's a little hairy. So, and I'm gonna get boring on detail because it's important. At our last meeting, the issue of who's gonna maintain swale, the section on the cul-de-sac, the section that goes down to the main stream in the back. We had a discussion about well, who's gonna maintain that. And it was suggested that the applicant go speak to the town, highway superintendent, to get his indication that whether he wants to do
Which
it
you
or
did,
not.
yep.
So he sent us a letter indicating that he would be willing to do it. Our attorney indicated that the letter was not sufficient, that letter from the highway superintendent was not detailed enough. That's pretty much quote unquote. So what she indicated were two things that we need. One, the applicant's attorney drew up an agreement, an easement and maintenance and easement agreement that would allow the town to take care of that swale and the drainage.
And I spoke to
That
my
once-
attorney on that topic, and he has a call in Mary Lou to
Okay,
talk
you
about
won't get her until.
Yep,
next week.
but
Right.
we're in line.
And okay, that's great. And once that's done, Mary Lou will approve it and let us know that it's approved. The second thing that came
So
up.
basically, that is basically releasing the town saying, so the.
If they want to maintain it, they can do it. Whatever's not maintained, we'll do.
And it should delineate what it is the town,
Yep.
where the
What the,
town,
what the
how far
town
the
is
town.
supposed to do and,
Yeah.
so the
And
town
they
is.
go-
When I spoke with Jeff, he was very open to doing what he has
So I'll let
access
your
to.
attorney define something, Mary Lou will decide.
So
whether
that's
it's
the idea of
reasonable.
defining who does what on the board.
Exactly.
No
And
problem.
she'll talk to Jeff and between them, they'll work it out. All right, there's no need to come back here unless there's a problem.
Yep.
And even then, we'll come back, we will work it out with each.
Yeah,
other.
right. No, they're,
The
they are on
second
the
thing
same.
that came up to be boring again was at the end of the last meeting, one of the members of the board raised the issue of having a profile of the drainage accoutrements, is the best way to put it. And specifically Sam raised it, Liz spoke about it, and I thought we had an agreement that that would be included in the latest map set. It doesn't appear that it was, that could be confusion, whatever. Mary Lou, in her email to me of Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
She wants that profile.
So the reason that wasn't submitted is basically went back on YouTube and watched, and it said either or, either the town is going to take it over,
Right.
and then we didn't need the profile, or we need the profile and we're going to need these.
Okay.
So the letter we thought was good enough. It's not sufficient. Now we'll do the drainage profile.
It'll be in this space.
Yeah, no problem. What details do you want on there? Just- That's our, right now, we don't know what you want.
Okay, so why don't we, let's have a conversation.
Well, I think I know what they want.
Have everything in
Okay,
mind?
why don't you provide it, if you
okay.
know?
I'm just
Oh, I'm
fairly
missing
certain
it.
what we need is a more detailed survey showing two things. One, the center line of the thread of the stream or the swale, drawn on a profile. We also want to look at the width of the swale. Any other significant features such as, as you guys saw, there's some rock work and stone work that was done. There is
We've
also.
got those tubes going into the
The
driveway.
pipes, yeah, we gotta show pipe size, height,
Culverts.
culverts for the driveways. All those need to be shown on the profile, I think, I mean, that's
Yes.
what I was.
I'm shaking my head, yes, I'm not an engineer, but that sounds
Yeah.
reasonable.
Is there anything else that maybe
Well,
we're,
in the profile, it's like a driveway profile. We
Yeah.
need to see, where does it start, when does it end, what's the grade that it takes on its way down.
And I would have brought it tonight if I had that.
Yep.
But honestly, I have to go back.
I think part of it is to find what is this thing now, so it doesn't, in the process of maintenance.
Something else.
Or less than if we keep saying.
So
not
that-
enough.
Sean, you okay?
Yeah, I think I'm
You're
very,
the only one who needs to be
I'm
okay.
very
with
clear,
this.
yes.
okay,
Define what it is.
And then, John, get it to Liz, so her engineer can take a look at it and say it's time to do it.
Okay.
The quicker you do it, like within 2 weeks, then we'll get everything back on the agenda for the next meeting in July. This is January. in
It should be
July.
submitted to the planning board, and I get it.
we'll submit it to
Yeah.
Nicole.
The usual.
And there are a couple minor comments. that I-
Hang on, I'm not finished with, hang on. Marion, is there anything else?
I have just some very super easy ones. We also, not that there's any room, gonna need more pages.
That's
Once again, the right to farm map note, the DEC stream map note, the Rochester waterway map note. And as we've done before, I'll let you just do with any subdivision design notes that could be pertinent. You will put in sometimes in a condition as per 125. They're not mandatory conditions, it's just telling the person, do not put the house in the middle of a field. Try to use, don't destroy I'm poorly paraphrasing what they are, but any design notes that might be pertinent to this project, which pretty much the way you set everything up is already set that way. Like you use a lot line, you go along a stone wall or something, it's all of the design criteria.
no destruction of stone.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Are any
basically,
of these in your application tracker, you're just talking code?
this is code right here. Application tracker has right to farm. DEC stream, Rochester waterway, and the subdivision
Design.
restriction map notes. That's another, there's a subdivision map notes, those are all in there. I can send them to you when I go home. Then if there are any subdivision design notes that you think could be pertinent to write in as sort of shoulds but not shalls, into the conditions. And then this is just my hitting you on the hand, Mr. Grasso. 125-3 jurisdiction. Oh,
125 what?
125-3 jurisdiction. Regardless of whether or not any formal conveyance by Metz and Bound shall be made, yada, 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 yada. In the absence of subdivision approval, a prospective purchaser shall not commence the erection of any structure on such lot, nor the commence any grading, clearing, construction, or improvements. The same thing for the McCarthy. Technically, $250, I think, what is it, $350 a day? If you start touching the land first. So we have to really start enforcing that, I think, with everybody. It was the exact same thing with McCarthy cutting driveways and not do anything. So that's a hand wrap.
So you can't start building it to you.
Not
We
just
know
the-
that, yeah.
You have the driveways.
But it's not, they shouldn't have done the driveways. The driveways technically were against code and technically we could be finding them for.
Okay, any other
Yep,
comment?
that's what it says.
Patrick?
Stop.
Says once you've made an application.
It's
Okay,
got an application.
all right, let's not debate it. It's
Well,
done.
yeah.
It was, shouldn't have been done, but Patrick,
Did we, I think we need to, I think we left the two lawyers hanging.
that's a good thing. Now, how do we?
They're not done.
Well, there was a commentary about Mary Lou and Mark's lawyer getting together and getting something clarified, and I don't think we specified what that was or.
So Mark's lawyer is going to come up with an agreement, a easement and maintenance agreement, finds what it is that the town is going to do, how much property is going to be involved.
We
You know, are you giving?
assume Mary Lou already has a
Well, she may have a,
template.
she may have a template.
We're gonna just go.
Doesn't she need, don't they both need the input from the
They're gonna
documentation
need
you are gonna put
potentially
together?
need some of the details, but I think in terms of what they're doing, they can probably refer to the plan. For whatever they're coming up with, and that's gonna be very detailed on the plan.
So they can't finish their decision or agreement.
Well,
until
you
they
know,
have
But
the
you can start
information.
the agreement without all the.
So we're gonna just say in the
Numbers.
agreement to refer
Start
to the
working.
map.
Well, you know what, Patrick, I
Fill
think
in the blanks.
does bring up a point that the agreement should have something in there that such and such and such and such should be responsible for taking care of the culverts. Such and such should be responsible for keeping the swale, 15 feet, 2 feet, 2 inches, 10 feet of the swale free from obstructions. So you are right that as you define the profile, that some of that needs to find its way into the agreement. Who's responsible for doing it? And you refer back to the plan, but who's going to do it? Is it the homeowner or is it going to be the
Or
town?
isn't
Sounds
it
like it's
also
going to be the
to
town.
inform the land, the homeowner
Well,
that the highway people will, in other words, that should be part of the agreement, to let the homeowners know
So you're
that.
agreeing with Patrick that we
Yeah.
need something detailed on the
Okay.
profile before the agreements are finalized.
So the conversation we had the last meeting or the one before, there was indecision as to whether lot number 4 owner was going to be responsible for part of that. And that
I guess
was
what
that
our
has
goal
never
is-
been clarified.
I guess our goal is we'll get the drainage profile, give it to the attorneys and then let them decide who's maintaining.
Patrick, I think the whole issue of one of the homeowners taking care of everything, that's been scotched.
Well, that one particular section.
I think that's now going to be the responsibility of the
Okay.
town.
all right.
Yeah.
The portion that leaves the town road area, the town's easement, the portion that leaves down and goes down severely down into the main stream, that's going to be the responsibility
Of either lot owner 2 or
lot
3,
2 or 3.
and we'll let the attorneys decide.
So
I
that
was
should be.
worried about this. My commentary actually was referring to the wetland part and the drainage out of there.
And that's what,
That part will be the.
That's be
town.
the town's responsibility.
But that was the other question, that was whether the part of the drainage that leaves the town right of way and it goes through lot
2 and 3.
2 and 3, whether who has like legal authority to make sure that it's being maintained. It's pretty wrapped up, right?
the town's not gonna do that.
The town's not gonna go on.
But from the wetlands area, or the spring area.
Yeah.
Along the cul-de-sac. Under lot 4's driveway,
And
under lot 3's driveway, with the culverts. That needs to be defined as to what's there, what needs to be maintained, and how much of what. That's, so you're right. That does
Yeah,
need to be
makes sense.
defined.
Because there is gonna be some access. to
What?
maintain
The
that.
town's gonna have the access.
So I think we've resolved it. I don't think it's what that.
And
Patrick, you
I'm
okay?
just saying,
Yeah.
part of the agreement. We go property.
So,
Problem.
so you know what you have to do?
We are comfortable with a drainage profile being created, turning it over to the attorney for them to create an easement agreement and maintenance agreement, and delineate the town's responsibility for their portion of the right.
So it's all on John and your attorney.
Yep.
To get the ball rolling.
Yep.
And Mary Lou will simply say, yeah, this agreement is fine.
And that'll be a condition.
And
of-
actually, the highway superintendent, as far as I'm concerned, is the one that's gonna have to say, yeah, this makes sense.
Right, agreed.
Okay.
So we can make a condition to make sure the highway superintendent reviews and agrees. of the-
One of the conditions will be.
Sure.
Okay. Lauren, do you have anything else? I see.
No, that-
Mara, you had map notes, that's it?
I told you the
Sam?
map notes.
Yep.
And that's it.
I don't have anything, but the public hearing is closed. I'm gonna instruct our planner to begin the decision.
Yep.
And doing the decision next week is all a matter of whether or not you guys get the other stuff done.
Sure.
Because the board is gonna want to see what you did. And the attorneys need to do whatever the heck it is the attorneys do.
Sure.
So it's gonna be tight to get this ready for the next meeting.
Well, you
The-
have 62 days.
Well, hang on a second. The drainage profile and the agreement are gonna be conditions of approval. So they're gonna be, just need to be reviewed by you,
Okay, you're right.
not anybody. So next month, we can do the draft decision,
Right.
vote on it, and then we'll get you those 2 items in addition to the other conditions that they have.
Right. What John is doing has to be reviewed by Liz's engineer as well. Just want to make that clear.
But that can be a condition.
Every part of the condition said it gets reviewed.
But it's not, I guess my question is, we're not being held up by John completing that work within the next 2 weeks.
In terms of your approval, no. One of the conditions will say, he got his thing done.
Yep.
It was reviewed by Liz.
Yep.
She gave the blessing.
Got it. So you're not
attorneys
waiting
have
for
done
us,
what they-
you don't need anything for us to submit for the draft decision next month.
Well, I sure as heck would like to see John's work done, but it's not.
I'll definitely try and get it as soon as we can.
So we're talking July 11th?
Anybody have anything else? Anybody concerned about the timeframe here? No. Okay. You're
Thank
done.
you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Let it be noted for the record that Mr. Grasso and Mr. Zach returned to the board at each unrecused. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Mr. McCarthy, Thomas McCarthy. And you better get your better half.
Good to see everybody.
Same here. Okay, so just an update for the board. The SHPO responded to the archaeological study in a letter dated June 3rd. It's in your Google Drive. That was one of the major things still remaining. They responded and said, after all the work that had been done by your consultant, Therefore, it is the opinion of SHPO that no properties, including archaeological and or historic resources listed in or eligible for the New York State and National Registers of Historic Places will be impacted by this project. So in other words, there was nothing found there of any significance that would in any way define the site as an archaeologically important site or historically important site. So that's been done. We also have a SWIP, and Liz, maybe you can, in a few minutes, just talk about that. There was a SWIP that was submitted. I read through it. I assume that your engineers went through it. And you can, as I said, you can comment in a few minutes. At the last meeting, when we went through the maps, Margaret, we made a couple of comments, things that needed to be done to the maps, on the maps. I believe they've all been done, extending the driveways, eliminating the driveways that were to be abandoned, labeling a couple of structures that were either going to be abandoned or going to stay, you need to label that. So that's all been done on the map.
I can't verify that that's all, but I'm in the middle of my review, I made notes.
So you didn't verify,
What?
you didn't verify, well, I verified, but you're doing another review?
Well, yeah, I mean, I marked up a memo and there isn't a whole lot left to do, but I figured.
So is what I said true or not true?
She hasn't
You
done
said everything was addressed, you think everything was addressed, and I'm just saying it might be a few little items.
Okay, so you're gonna,
I'm gonna do an updated review.
tonight, you're gonna tell us what still hasn't been done tonight.
No, I'll do a review memo, but I'll talk about the stormwater.
All right, so hang on one second. Does the board have anything else that they want?
I have nothing.
Myron?
I had some small ones, and I already did the hand slap. That shouldn't have touched the land.
I can't hear you now. You
I
did
said
what?
I already did the hand slap. That shouldn't have cut any driveways in theory. That could be 350 350 a day. We will need, once again, the famous map notes, sort of forgetting those. Floodplain, Liz, I think when we get to this point, we're probably not going to be careful.
So we're talking notes now?
Yeah, notes. We have floodplain map notes. Property contains some within the floodplain.
Farm?
Like the farm. DEC stream. Rochester waterway. Subdivision restrictions. Shared driveway, there is one shared driveway. I don't know where to fit them all, but on the flip side, shared driveway, subdivision restrictions, and then any subdivision design notes that would be, that then leaves the application tracker and goes into the actual code.
The tracker's in the application
I can send you the whole document.
checklist thingy, right? That's
Yeah,
what you did is move the checklist, that's what I thought.
I can send you the whole document that I over there.
Yeah, I think it's on there.
Myron, anything else?
I probably-
Yeah,
Patrick?
Make sure.
No. Sam?
I'm good.
Zach?
Nope, I'm good.
Lauren mentioned about shared driveway. You're gonna need a shared driveway agreement, maintenance agreement.
Yeah, last month, Mary Lou said hold off until for changes, but we knew how I do for template, that was gonna work out. But yes, that's fine.
So you're looking for us to give you a sample?
She
No,
has
I think
Mary
we got
Lou's-
the sample, but I think Mary Lou said hold off until after we got preliminary and physical changes. So
Okay.
I held off. That was my first.
Well, I don't see any changes coming about. It's-
Okay, good, then we'll go ahead and,
We're fine with the driveways where you located them.
okay.
The board voted on that, I think, the last
Do
time.
that.
Time before that, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, SWIP, comments on the SWIP and whatever else you have?
So these will be written up. Let's see, the overall limit is disturbance exceeds 1 acre. Let's see, coverage under Steve's construction activity. The residential portion will require erosion sediment control measures. Commercial portion will require preparation of full scope construction and permanent stormwater practices. These items will be required upon future site plan application. Finish that. With the so we understand that part. we need to see the overall limited disturbance, labeled as acreage on the home. And again, these are going to be written comments, revise all segments of silt fencing that run parallel to elevation contours where applicable. Location and construction details for concrete washouts and soil stockpiles on free residential. Consider rain gardens or underground infiltrators to treat runoff from the roof leaders from residential houses. There's an NOI form that needs to be included in this one. Let's see. These are the ones that schools do 100% construction activity. SWIP, but this is the most important one. The engineer said for future planning of permanent practices on commercial lot, it looks like you're gonna need some kind of a drainage easement because you're, here with some runoff, general flow runoff is in this general direction. And so, say, the drainage easement should be prepared from the commercial lot through an adjoining residential lot toward the creek to allow routing of discharge piping of any permanent stormwater practices for the commercial lot. And, I mean, one way of handling it would be to try to follow lot lines if possible, or to figure out what is the best route. But you can kind of see. You obviously, don't want to be near the septics. And I think in general, he was saying, it generally looks like the water's going to end up kind of going this way, maybe going under the driveway. And it's helpful, I think, to have a drainage easement follow along. So, I mean, I think that's something we can do for offline consultation. Oh, am I going the wrong way?
Where water should run forward on that front lot, but over the hill or over the back.
This is to elevation to 90, this is elevation to 80, so it's actually close to what's going on.
Which there's a culvert there
I think
already.
he was concerned about you being able to put that much stormwater in that direction. So you have to, I mean, that's gonna be. I don't know, that was his recommendation.
Well, isn't a way of handling that, it may be his recommendation, but you don't even know what you're doing on that property yet, on that particular parcel.
Why not? Make
So all we ask you to do is to indicate a little bit more than you had 2 months ago, which you did on the roof plans. And I think that's sufficient when whoever comes in applying for a commercial site, they don't have to deal with it at that time. The land doesn't go, the water's not gonna go up the hill. So you're gonna have to deal with a retention pond or whatever, depending upon what the use is. If everything gets paved over, you're gonna need a retention pond. probably.
Absolutely.
So why don't we just, nice comment, but I don't see what that is germane.
Well, could we put it as a condition,
Then a future development.
for
I mean,
future
you know
development, blah, 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 a condition that this should be addressed for future commercial development.
Okay.
We don't need
But
poorly
he also-
worded, but
Okay, I know, that's good. Have a condition
have
that,
a condition that,
but this particular, we're gonna approve the whole plan, right?
Right.
Part of it's commercial profit, commercial parcel. So one of the conditions will be, the applicant needs to recognize that there will be additional site work needed on this particular parcel, particularly in the area of drainage, something of that sort. Okay, we're not gonna tell them what to do with it now, because we have no idea. what they're doing.
Understood. I guess what he was looking at was the possibility of that much flow going into the ditch onto.
And all that's dependent upon what's the use.
But it's been going in the ditch for 100 years now.
Well,
but now there's nothing
Grass.
there. It's grass.
There's
Understood.
no-
It's
So you're saying,
Previous
so then we need a comment on the map for when future development occurs.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that's-
think he's trying to provide for
Okay.
potential of there being more runoff. into the-
So we got it. I think we're good.
I'll ask him.
Okay. Anything else, Liz?
Minor stuff.
Okay. So
So,
what's your
can you give an
next step in regards to this project? Because I want to set the
I
public
thought
hearing
that
tonight.
I don't have a problem with that. I would like to do an updated memo, incorporate this.
So when will the memo be done? What?
As soon as I can.
We can open the public hearing.
Tomorrow or,
We can schedule.
but before the end of this, I'll
Okay.
give you that
We
because
can schedule.
you know our
Okay.
system is down.
And
I'm just
that's
doing the
fine.
best I can.
That's fine. So I'll entertain a motion to set the public hearing
So move
for
For when?
July.
for the July 11th meeting.
11th meeting. Thank you, Mark.
I'll
Mark
second
moved,
that.
who second?
I will.
Sam, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So ordered.
See you July 11th.
Can I ask?
So here's what's gonna happen. Liz is gonna put together another, with a few more comments, things that might need to be added to the map. I think we just dealt with the issue about the drainage on that commercial site. We can't deal with it till we figure out what to do in there.
And it might help to have, if you have an engineer that's already looking at your stuff, who's done the drainage stuff, to do an offline conversation.
Exactly, because the one risk we could have here is, and I don't know this at all, if your engineer says a 500 square foot little tiny boutique will cause this much runoff, then we probably should have something in it right now.
Because it could be a 6,000 square foot.
Or it could be that it's only, if it's a 6,000 square foot warehouse, if you have this problem that happens, and then, but if the land, I mean, I don't know, anything the land engineer says, no, this is really a problem that would happen if it was a very large commercial development, that's different, it could be addressed then, but if he sees it being a problem to do anything to the land, then we probably should address it, so we don't end up with water going all over 209.
So
Yeah,
that-
and I
You
think
can't
that-
allow that.
Yeah,
For Lou to talk to.
right, I think the offline consultation worked well with all the final.
Okay.
thoughts.
That's fine. Engineers talking to engineers
There
about
you
what
go.
might happen.
It works for me.
It's like
Sure
lawyers
me.
talking to lawyers.
Sure enough.
Well, look, if it turns out that it's a problem site, it won't be able to be developed as a commercial site.
Oh, I don't,
But I don't think that's the
I don't
case.
think it's limiting at all.
No.
They've got it. They could do a much bigger building than going on
Okay.
there.
So, go ahead, Nick.
I do have one question, if you don't mind. This was discussed sending to Ulster County Planning. Is it in the form that it can go to Ulster County Planning now?
We need a final map that goes to Ulster County.
No, this can go to
No,
the,
this could go.
for the planning. for
I
Ulster
think
County
it'd be
planning.
okay with it, just a
Okay.
little bit.
I don't think anything that's gonna change here would
Okay.
affect the county.
Do you need a
Mark, do
motion
we
for
need a
that?
motion for that?
Yes, we
I
do.
think our practice
Yes,
is.
we
to
do.
do that.
Yes, we do.
I'll entertain a motion to send this off to the Ulster County
I will
Planning.
make a motion to forward this to the Ulster County Planning Board. meeting.
Lauren,
I will
Lou,
second.
second, Sam, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried and so ordered.
And we do that, right? Nicole does that.
Nicole does that.
We do that.
And
You have
they
to
have-
upload it on their site.
Okay,
Just in case there's a delay.
See you July 11th.
thank you for reminding us about that.
I'm also gonna prepare shorty parts 2, 3.
Perfect.
Okay, next on the agenda is Cohen Wynn. Who's here for the Cohen Wynn project? Anybody here? Stephen Cohen or Solly Wynn?
I don't see any of those.
I don't see
I
anybody.
suggest we move on to the next step.
Come back to it. The next one is Wayne Gray.
Wake up from your nap, Terry.
Quick question, Rick, am I preparing a decision for this?
For the next meeting.
That one, McCarthy?
McCarthy?
I don't think,
I don't
Not
think
ready,
so.
okay, that's all I need to
Yeah,
know.
Ulster County.
we have to know Elton County's comments and such.
It's very-
If the board would just indulge me for a minute. What I did, you have it in front of you. I made a list of items that I thought each of the projects needed to do to be more complete. What we could do is I could quickly rattle through, sorry, you could probably rattle through them also. It's stuff that we.
I wasn't sure if we're doing these informal first time.
Yeah, this is an informal first time, and I'm gonna tell you,
Right.
the board is gonna tell you in general stuff that you need.
Because I left
And
a
then
lot.
you'll get a letter,
We'll send you this.
you'll get a letter with a list of things or from Nicole sometime this week, okay? So in general, we need a property deed. It wasn't in the package. I'd like to see contours on the properties affected. So the 2 existing properties are affected. I'd like to see contours for those. But I don't need contours, I don't think, for the rest of the property. You can do spot contours.
Well, right,
Talk to me.
because there's no development happening on this, it's pre-existing.
So
I
just give
didn't
me
know-
spot contours.
Yeah, I didn't know, whether we really needed to have contours, because everything is just.
So give me, you know what, give me spot contours.
Yeah, I can give you contours on the whole thing, it's just, whether it was even necessary.
Just overlay.
It's pretty
Yeah,
flat there
that's-
anyway.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, no issues.
are there any ag lands?
No,
I don't think so. Okay.
I checked for you now.
I think your SBL on is wrong. I have it as, it should be 60.3. You have it as 63.3.
That's dyslexia. It works
Yeah,
every-
you're right. It's
It's
60 spot 3 in the application. Yeah.
So just undyslex yourself.
Yeah, it's,
Um, Would you label the existing stuff as existing? Or, existing.
Where the
house?
house is.
We know, thank you. We're gonna need a question mark, and Mary Lou's not here, so I don't know, maybe somebody would like to play lawyer tonight.
I have an answer.
I
to your
think we're gonna
question.
need a shared driveway, a maintenance agreement.
No, because there's a private road that goes all around the lot too like that, so they could access it 1,000,000 points on the private road.
Oh, you're right.
So
It's
they
not-
don't-
it's not Route
Route
66.
66, it goes all the way
Route
around.
66,
Okay, so you don't need to do
You
that.
don't need to do that.
I don't think that's true.
No,
because
we need enough.
The lot needs to be a party to the private road agreement.
Right,
That
so-
means that
so
everyone on, also everyone on the private road
Has to agree.
had that one. on
Right,
the-
so we are not creating a new lot on the private road, it's an existing lot. We're creating a 1.5 acre lot that has 2 access points off of Samsonville Road. There's no shared driveway.
So-
Maybe I'm confused.
So
about
Terry,
what
future
the new
development
lot-
on lot 2 would come off of Samsonville Road or would come off of Route 66?
You come up Route 66,
Because it
which
already
which it
does.
already does.
Okay, so
Has,
they,
Do we have to map, I think I have it on my computer, I think maybe I'm just confused.
no, it's
Yeah,
basically.
you're totally right, Jerry. That's-
Well, it looks like lot 1, it looks like has frontage on Sampsonville Road
Yes.
only.
That's
And it
correct.
has,
those including the driveway.
and there's a driveway that comes in off Route 66.
Do you want the big map?
Yeah, because
You
I'm,
want the big boy map?
Route, lot 2, the application says there's an existing house, but there's nothing shown on the map.
Well, the
And there's no
existing
access
house
shown on lot.
that where lot 1 is has road frontage on Route 66. Because they use the
Slow
driveway.
down. So the current parcel as it exists, this is 2 corners. It
No,
follows.
that's the lot we're trading. The existing parcel is this here.
It's really weird, Sam. It's got a real skinny portion in the front.
So what,
And this
what's
is
that
an
line?
exception. What is this?
Where's the property line of the existing lot?
That one. It's-
Yeah, I'm
confusing.
ready.
Can we draw on it?
Yeah,
I'm
here,
gonna-
just-
Draw on.
Because
that the
Orion
same
would be
color?
having a
I don't
heart
have-
attack.
This is blue.
Okay, so I come this way. Come up here.
That dotted line is the property line.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, so make this, okay, now, there's an exception.
What is an exception?
This is a lot that's already been sold, that has right off of this
So this is,
private road.
this is,
We're not approving that. Sam.
so this is a landlocked, this is a,
No.
There's a
No,
road there.
this is a private road. the
Route
road
66.
So
And
this-
then it'll go into the new lot.
Where, right
Well,
now,
it-
it currently.
it already
it
does.
Technically,
so the private road
it's
is
over here.
on,
Yeah, so Route 66.
this is for everybody else.
two minutes.
Right.
The private road is on lot, proposed lot 2 in
Yes.
its entirety.
It's entire.
And when you say the exception, lot 1 is, I won't use the word landlocked, but it exists within lot 2.
Lot 1.
It's completely surround, but this exception.
This,
No,
this
that's,
is
we're
private.
not talking
No, but
about.
I know, but I'm just trying to understand. It's like an island in the lake, and the lake is lot 2.
No, because it goes all the way around it right now.
Sam, he's got the,
Either I'm being dense, I just want to make sure I'm not being dense.
Okay, so.
This right
at-
here,
at-
where the
let-
private road is.
Let me take you back in time.
this is, you're getting confused by this lot.
No, I'm not.
This is
Okay,
lot
That's
one.
not what's.
So,
That's
so
what-
let me take you back in time,
It's the square one. that's
okay?
confusing.
I'm gonna take you back in time.
Yeah.
At one time, this was Sampsonville Road,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
This farm actually went across here,
sure.
okay? All of this, okay?
Mhm.
His predecessors in title, his, how do we want
Heirs.
to say it? No, heirs would become, his,
Spouses heirs.
Forebears is the word.
yeah,
It's
the forefathers of
four
the,
heirs.
the
It's four heirs.
forefathers of the great family
There you go.
sold off some land. And in selling off the land, they provided a 50-foot road.
Right,
in right of way to these other
right,
lots.
and the right of way goes over lot two,
It's within lot
to the
two,
right of way.
Right.
Sure, okay,
totally confined, so lot two boundary can go all the way over to here,
yeah.
all the way out and around.
So what I said was correct.
This here was a lot that was sold off.
Yeah.
That has frontage
It has-
on a private road.
It has access to a right of way that
Well, it's not a right,
Crosses
it's a
lot
private
two.
road. It's recognized as
uses the
private
private
road,
road,
so
but the
people-
land
private
under
road.
the private road is lot.
Yes, so this
That's
this
what I'm
strip
saying.
here is
Okay.
owned by lot two.
Yeah.
But this isn't just floating out an island, it's
No, yeah,
anchored
but
to that
it's-
road.
It's
and-
it's neither here nor there from what we're talking about. That's just what was confusing me, because I didn't understand what this was in the front. Now I understand, so
All right, so let's go back
All
to
the
the shared.
improvements shown here are existing.
which
So
is
there's an
why,
existing- house.
lot two doesn't need any access agreement, because it's here, so it has
It's on
frontage on
Samsonville and owns the
366
whole.
is it.
Right.
Got it.
So
And
we don't
lot
need
one
it.
doesn't need to
The
share anything
ontology is now
because
clear to me.
this driveway is only gonna be for lot one.
Got it.
Terry, you can return to
Good,
you.
thank you.
All right.
That was very helpful.
Give me my pen.
So we don't need to
So
share.
I will say,
I
no,
know.
I will
Mine's
say, I will say that Terry, he's absent today, but Zorian will still not understand this. All respect to Zorian.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that confused me was some of the different types of lines. I think maybe just adding a few more types of lines or subtracting.
So what my proposal was, is I wanted to bring this here to show the whole
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
lot two.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
I'd like to
I
do
get it
is
now.
just go with the smaller part of it that's up along Samsonville, so we can add detail to the map and we can show it at a
So
better
this is
scale.
where the existing house on lot
Yes.
two is.
Yes.
Yes.
So why, and what is the reason for not making this into a lot three? Like, why isn't this a 3 lot?
Because the gentleman one, he's like. to keep it
You just want it all as lot, as one lot.
So in theory, but is somebody else? Hold on a minute here. Should we do a lot line also to get rid of those lines, but
I was thinking that.
What do you mean, which line?
we're gonna keep it?
No, that's
That's someone else.
owned by Wayne Gray Jr.
Got it,
son.
got it,
So
got it.
I don't think he wants to give up his lot.
All that and all the round. land.
You want to
Yeah.
keep this parcel, sell that parcel or give it to someone else. And then you also want to keep this back here.
Which is
Right,
all
because
part of
all
the
part of
parcel
lot-
in the.
It's already part
It's
of.
already part of parcel two in the
Yeah,
weird.
that's what you always figure out the most efficient way to do it. But there was like 18 steps that we just had to get walked through.
All right, so we
How do
don't
you
need
think
to
I
share,
felt to begin with?
Terry, we don't need to share driveway. agreement.
Right.
Um,
Which is why we're doing it.
Exactly.
Correct.
Should I say correct?
Yeah, correct.
What we do need, Sam, to the right of the lots that you were pointing out before, you just need a, yeah, you've got all the names of the people, the library numbers. You missed a few
On
properties.
the other side.
On the other side,
Yeah, which I knew.
Okay, if you could do that. Maren, you had some comments.
Yes, we just covered all of the shared driveway mess. That was one of them. This problem we have, if this was previously subdivided, this then is counted as a major subdivision technically, so we're gonna need to ask for all these waivers.
So there's never a filed subdivision map on this, this was all done prior to,
1982
Yes.
or whatever, okay.
prior to
Yeah.
any subdivision, right?
Fine.
Because,
Nicole confirmed that, Maren?
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect,
the
that was
two-
my
the two
question.
ladies
right,
confirmed.
Even
yeah,
tonight,
because I'm doing my research, trying to figure out where everything went, and how the lots were.
Okay, Maren, keep going.
We covered the lot line, whatever thing. We could do what you said you're gonna do, the first draft, do the happy wood stuff in the back. And a little, shows that this is all, it's all wooded in the back basically.
So, yeah, well, that was my question, is if we can now just kind of remove the front, make that,
You could make it
Make
bigger,
it-
but I
make it
still want to
bigger.
see, I still want to see.
okay, because I won't be able to do it on a sheet that.
You
would
could
be
do an
only five.
inset,
Right.
you could do an inset and then area of detail.
I still don't know that there'd be enough room to do that at the scale that I'd have to bring the front up to. Okay. Because
What
I
if
would
you
have
did
to
like
triple
a-
that scale.
What if you did like one of these, the second one of these that showed the whole parcel?
I can do that very small, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
what I'm
gonna show
saying.
the detail. If you want me to start showing where wooded areas are on that.
I'm
that's gonna
saying
get-
do another map that's small that shows
Right.
this, and then do a blowout of the relevant area. Right, so the big
Right, but-
area
but-
is
okay,
small.
right,
and
right.
smaller.
So if we're trying to put detail into that big area,
Yeah.
show wooded areas and such forth,
Oh, I see.
that's
what
gonna
we're-
get very congested and
It's just
small.
another-
So what do you
and-
propose to keep us happy?
Why don't you just do the inverse? Do the big part, do the blow up of the locations that you're looking to do, and then just insert of the whole.
Right, well, that's what we're just discussing,
Saying
but
to
if
show
we're
trees.
asking for stuff to be on the part that's not being,
Can't see anything.
we're not gonna see
Do
it.
another
It's gonna-
sheet in the set. Just do one sheet that's showing the overview.
That's a good idea. That keeps us happy.
Listen, you got too many trees anyway.
Why don't you do it that way, Terry? All right, next, Maury.
Or maybe we'll just keep it small and just cram a bunch of detail in.
Yeah.
So,
That's what you decide to do. Fine.
yeah,
That
I was
was
just
it.
trying to
It
make
was-
it-
I just wanted to know
Nice.
on the private loan, I told you that that's, no more.
Yeah, okay.
So what was it that you were requesting for, to show the tree lines?
Wooded,
Yeah.
Existing wooded areas.
existing wooded areas. You can just write existing wooded areas.
Terry, think of something now.
Sure, you can do it. You do like
You love these logic
dams and
puzzles.
stuff.
Okay, anything else from the board?
I've got stuff if no one else.
Go ahead, Sam.
I mean, this may be a Mary Lou question, but it's in the it's in the I zoning district, which I have not interacted as a board member with the I zoning district before. A few quick things came up. One is just a question of why this is in the I zoning district. That feels relevant to me. Like, is there a mine or an old mine? Like, why is it I?
So this has some.
Because everything else
historical-
around it is more.
This has been the Gray excavating homestead since what, 19? Forever. And, the actual barn that's shown on there was the workshop. His father and probably his father
Yeah.
before that, actually, and it used to be a
Dance hall.
many years
A
ago.
different kind of workshop.
So it's just a little historic part of the town that has just always been.
So there's still an active industrial use to still have the shop there and stuff. Okay, so that's why it's I.
What kind of a shop was it, Mr. Floyd?
It used to be when?
Yeah,
Which era?
Which
Before
is it
with
now?
before with the dancing speakeasy shop?
It was a dance hall, way before my time. And it
What
was.
was it during Prohibition?
Oh,
dance
my
hall.
God. Yeah. a dance hall.
That is
It still was on,
I did.
back on lot two.
Okay, so Sam, you're okay with that?
Well, yeah, it was just a question of why was I, but then the second question is, residential is not a primary allowed use in I. So if we're making a new lot that has as its primary use I, the question is that a problem? And that may just be a Mary Lou question, but I thought Mara
You
might,
can have residential and an
but
industrial.
it requires the variance.
And you can have up to 3 variances.
Or does it, or it might
Well,
require
my
special
question
use
is,
permit?
in your bulk requirements, it has, it's,
It
But
does
it's
not
the-
require a variance, it requires a
Special
special
use
use
permit.
permit if you, but the houses are already there with the.
Well, that's why it's like a Mary Lou question. Like,
So
I
what
don't
do
know
we-
if we need to do a special use permit.
No, let's not do that. Hang on.
I'm just trying to.
It was submitted to us by the building inspector without a special use permit. So until Mary Lou returns next Monday, let's just table that
I
question.
thought because it was existing structures with no new construction, but then it's the whole question of we're making it.
Well, that's why we're
lot.
well, the person that purchases it, when Mr. Gray sells it, may operate a business out of there, and keep the industrial.
So why don't we
So
leave
it
it? So
wouldn't be
when
until
Mary
they
Lou,
change it to just being residential.
why don't we leave it? I'm insisting we leave it until Mary Lou
Yeah, we
returns.
can't change
We're not gonna discuss it any longer. And we didn't get it as a special use permit from Bill, so that's probably the end of the story.
It's just a question.
So, no, I understand, but.
Yeah. Yep.
We want to keep this moving, right?
No,
We've got 3 more to go.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
anything else from us?
this is stuff.
Anything else?
No,
You'll
I-
solve the problem of the size and all of the good stuff.
Yeah.
You'll get a letter from us listing all the things you gotta do. Mara, anything?
No,
else?
there aren't very many.
Okay.
Rick, do we need escrow?
Thank you. It's on the list. You had it on the list.
Oh, I didn't, but I,
Okay.
maybe it's on the list. I didn't.
$1,500 in escrow. Mr. Gray,
So now,
we need
Is that because everything is
$1,500 in
going
escrow.
to the planner now?
Talk to Nicole, she'll tell you procedures for it, and so before the next meeting, we need that. And that's to cover, not electronics, to cover our planner, who we do in the decision, and if Mary Lou has to get involved in anything, I don't know. But 1,500 should cover it. Okay, anything else?
I have nothing.
Okay,
No, I've got some more of the standard map notes that I can make.
I'll throw them all on.
Just throw them all, even if we don't use them.
You know, we used to come
You
out
don't rent
here
the
with
farm
2
there
or 3
already.
notes, now we got 15, 20.
15.
I might have to have another sheet just for the notes.
Well, you could add
Damn
blow up
straight
to
with the
that.
notes.
I'll put the notes, I'll reduce the notes and put them.
all right, guys, come on, we all complain about being against the weight.
All right, let's do
You're
it.
gone.
See you, bye.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Sorry, thank you, Jerry, thank you for it, nice to you.
But it's fun for us to talk about it.
Oh, great. Okay, who's next? Mickenberg.
Mickenberg.
Mr. Mecklenburg, how are you? Good. Let me give you the maps for this.
You brought this or?
Liz.
Liz
She
travels
always
over
brings
to
it in.
talk to
Right
me.
on the wall.
Actually, the map that you have on the Google Drive is the only map. I don't have a more formal map. So the map that you have on the Google Drive is the one that you should refer to. And Mr. Mecklenburg, you have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So are you here with your,
By myself.
by yourself? So you have a survey and all that?
I have one that has not been done yet, but I have one that.
So I would recommend to you, you do what you want, but I would recommend you don't represent yourself at these meetings. Come to the surveyor or engineer, because there are gonna be questions I'm sure he's gonna have, there's gonna be things we're gonna require in terms of the map. And it's been my experience, I think the board would concur, that translating what the board wants through the applicant to the surveyor never works. So next time, I think you should come with the professional.
Sure.
There's a host of things that I need. First of all, you need a larger map. This is not drawn to scale as per the code. You're,
I was told I could sketch it.
well, this is a sketch plan, but we need a formal survey.
So, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is the one that has a flag lot the new one, or is it the one that has
Triangular.
the triangle?
It's this one, Lauren, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, you're right, there is an old one on there. This is the one you're,
Correct.
okay. So this is the sketch map.
Thank you.
So this is a sketch, it's sufficient for this meeting, but we need a real map done by a surveyor to a different scale that the board can react to, similar to what you saw from the other applicants. Deed, I didn't see the deed in the file. The deed. that
We're gonna
shows
send
the
you a
owner.
list of all of them. Just so you don't have to have flames going up.
All of the properties surrounding you, and again, the survey would know this. We need all the SBL numbers of all the properties that surround your property.
Including across the street.
Thank you. Yes. We need for you to show the proposed house, driveway, septic, and well on the lot that you're making. There's nothing here. You need all of that. You need to show the distances from the existing driveway to the new driveway. Code describes it as being has to be 50 feet. You need the whole map marked out by a surveyor. Contour lines, you need on that, the topo lines you need on it, setbacks, side setbacks, front setbacks, rear side setbacks. And I have about 5 or 6 other items, but I know that Lauren, you said you had some, and Mark, you said you had some, and Patrick, you have some? We'll start with Patrick this time. Well, and by the way, what we're gonna do, you'll get a letter with the list of all the items we need. You need to get your surveyor to either read the code or familiarize himself with the comments. If he has any questions, he can come and ask. Sit down with somebody. Patrick?
In going through the documentation, I went through the EAF. And on the EAF, in section 3, it says total acreage of the site proposed action is 5 acres, total acreage to be physically disturbed is 5 acres. It's not gonna be right.
That can't be right. That's
Who filled the,
probably a mistake. Did you
So,
fill out a
uh,
short form EAF? Environmental,
I did, maybe I showed that out.
that's why you need it.
Yeah. So your surveyor will want to help you redraft that and submit it again, because you're not going to be able to have that much limits of disturbance means you're going to strip the whole entire lot of every tree
And put a Costco.
and put a warehouse there. Okay.
That's a good point. Lauren?
You know what, it's a bunch of things along the lines that we could probably just, we keep forgetting to check historic structures when we do these in case, this area I don't think has any, but Queens Highway could. We also need to start on these flag lots referring to the highway and the fire department and the highway department. And you caught this, it's a very long to put the flag part. If it's over 500 feet, you need pull-offs, and it just almost looks like it's 577, so probably the fire department would say that's okay. There's possible wetlands on the full back third of it. 60–80% of it, the forest conditions are for forest, so we need some of that. And then the other ones are flag lot restrictions, subdivision restrictions, subdivision design notes, that's like basic stuff later on. So what you could just add, it's mostly like check. I did notice, I did look for you, that it's not near any ag district areas, so that one's okay. But they probably could just, this is all for the checklist stuff.
Mark, you said you had some?
Yeah, so my biggest thing is when I went out there and looked at the property, the front, let's call it third, is level with the road, and after the last 2/3 is exceptionally a fall off. So I think that there could be potentially some re-engineering of how you're going to lay out the flag lot, because it looks like your second home or your future home
It's
site
gonna be down like.
is going to be down in a hill, and your septic is, your existing house's septic is going to be rolling down that way. I think you're asking for problems doing that. So potentially, I'm not going to, I could give you my idea of what I would do, but I think that it's best to reach out to the surveyor and say, is there a better way to redefine or to reconfigure the lot so that maybe the house site is up on top of the flat portion where your both septics are going downhill, if that makes sense. Right now you have, you'll have, when you're on your back deck, you'll be looking at somebody's roof. I don't think that's what you want, but we'll let you decide that.
You might be a roof voyeur
Yeah,
and actually want that.
I mean, I like the idea of the lot, how you have it. I just think that it could be configured differently, that would be more advantageous, maybe even more valuable.
So Matthew, this is, all the comments you're getting here is something why you need a professional surveyor / engineer to lay this out. I think if I didn't, we need contours on here for exactly that reason. Contour lines, how steep is it? Lauren's right, there's a lot of core habitat lands that we're gonna want to see preserved.
And there's wetlands in the back.
And there's wetlands, you're not gonna be able to build in the wetlands.
It's distance, densities away from that.
So you're gonna, Sam, Lauren, anything else?
No, I was gonna say, so it's sort of a tough back lot.
Sam, anything?
No, everything's been covered.
Zach?
I'm looking at Ulster County parcel viewer, and it looks like there's a private drive close to the house below lane. So I just want to make sure that the thing in a driveway there won't interfere with traffic coming in and out of the private drive. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
it's
flag is
flat
on the
and
left.
straight.
The flag is on the left side, so that driveway's going to intersect Willow. That's a good point. So again, your surveyor will probably want to look at the code and go, ooh, we can't do this. We have to shift, move, shake, whatever.
Or maybe do a shared driveway somehow. Involve a shared driveway.
Anything else, Zach?
No.
Okay,
Escrow risk?
I'm gonna get to that. Well, we'll get to it right now.
I was going to say, yeah.
All right, you can stop in and see Nicole, Secretary to the Planning Board. And you can give the check to her. And you'll get a letter from us sometime this week that lists everything we talked about here. And again, I've said it about 3 times, you need a professional to come back with a map.
Would you recommend an engineer or a surveyor or both?
Hopefully your surveyor is the engineer. Hopefully.
Go with a firm that has both, or somebody who can do both.
Rick, one other thing
Otherwise-
that I'm looking at.
Otherwise, you're gonna be back here over and over and over.
Yeah.
One other thing on Parsons, it looks like this lot has been subdivided before.
Yes.
So you might need some waivers for a major subdivision.
You know what?
I don't know if Nicole has that.
They didn't catch it, so I don't. Why did you say that it's been subdivided?
Just because the SBL numbers neighboring it show there's 1-1-5.230, 1-1-5-240, then you have a new naming convention of .55.100, .55.200. So there's, that lot's been split already.
The original owner had 7 acres, and then sold me the 5 and kept 2.
So that's a major, you need a waiver and Jerry needs to fix
I wonder why they didn't catch that.
How do you start working with the new more part?
As long as it's
just
two
a number
lots.
of lots.
Yes, as long as it's two lots.
Everything's
so
allowed
two
still.
lots.
It's based on lot number. it's not based
No,
on it.
no large subdivisions
Over
lot,
2
lot,
lots.
lot.
Anything 3 or more can't be done while you're in a commercial. Anything 2 or less.
So
So
you'll,
what were we,
Speaking of one lot
what we're
subdivision.
referring to here, I'm gonna leave it at 1,500 anyway.
I'm just saying you might want to get you might want to have the code enforcement office recheck to make it a major, and
Well, I'm
then you
gonna
can ask
find
for a waiver.
Well, I'm gonna find out why it wasn't. Because they've been really good at
I mean, what
identifying.
Mary Lou would point out, were she here, is that unless we want to re-refer it to the code enforcement office, or unless the applicant wants to, there's no formal mechanism. for the code.
I know, what I'm getting at is I think it's to the applicant's advantage because you would have waivers from the previous time it was
No, I
done.
think what Sam is saying, if the code enforcement
So
officer
it's a
gave it to us,
minor.
it's minor.
I see.
Then there's no,
We just take
someone
it
would
we
have
just
to
ignore
do
it.
something to
Understand.
change it,
Okay.
and there's no benefit.
Maybe that's why I said, okay, they checked it. This is technical jargon that
Yep.
we're going through here. So I think you're okay, forget about everything we said the last 2 minutes.
And our meetings are all on YouTube, so you're just like,
Yeah.
are stimulated by this.
When you hire a surveyor, you say, let's go watch the YouTube and they can tell you everything that we know.
Okay, Matthew, you done? All right, if you have any questions, you can get hold of Nicole and she can probably fix everything, answer your
And we'll get
questions.
this, she'll get the summary. later.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Wynn here? No, okay.
Like,
Wildlands.
They're straight, they got 2 strikes.
Mr. Pink,
Yes.
come on up. I think that poor guy is like deer in the headlights.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He didn't know what he was
No
getting
idea
into.
what was subdivision.
Okay, hi, Mike. Hi. All right, so couple questions. This is for the board, Mike. Couple questions came up on the board about this project. It's 5 lots, isn't affected by the moratorium. And in checking, it's not affected. It was before us in November of 2020 as a 2-lot subdivision. And then Mr. Fink didn't come back. He's coming back now with a 5-lot permitted application, so it's covered, or it's exempted from the moratorium. Since you didn't withdraw your application. It was just not acted upon, so this is another one. So let me pass out the maps that I have. There's 2 there.
Yes, I'm good.
I have, there's another one. Oh, here.
Or not.
The photograph of that one. So Mike, the same thing that you said to the other 2 people who were here, you'll get a letter from Nicole with all the things that are necessary on the map. And we'll just kind of give you tonight a taste of those things. Okay. We'll consider them as a sketch plan. Also, just a full disclosure. And then Mr. Fink and your engineer, I think,
Bob James.
Mary Lou and Liz back in November, I think it was, with this map, and we gave them a whole bunch of things that he needed. And some are here, some are not here. We didn't go through everything. So tonight we'll go through some of the additional things. Again, I suggest that you have your professionals here.
He couldn't make it. I apologize for that.
No apologies necessary, but it usually goes easier.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
All right, so the items that I have, there's a wetland area in the back here by the stream that needs to be marked. It's very small, but it's back here by the Peters Kill. That needs to be marked along with the 100-foot. I do see the 100-foot here. So actually it is here. The existing wood road looks extremely long. The shared driveway road that lots 3 and lot 4 share. You're gonna need at least 2 turnoffs here, emergency vehicle turnoffs, maybe 3. Our rule is every 500 feet, you need a turn-on.
Okay.
So if this is 1,500,
Rick, there's only 2 driveways coming off that?
from what I can see,
There's only-
Mark,
Yeah, there's,
there's 2.
There's the private
Lot
road
3
and
and lot
lot
4.
3.
It's lot 3 and lot 4 being serviced by the
Yep.
Woods Road,
Yep.
right? So you need to, the length of the road needs to be marked. A lot of things need to be marked as to dimensions. So this road, if it's a shared driveway, it needs to be 16 feet wide. It needs to be a 50-foot right of way. All those kinds of things need to be marked on the map. All of the measurements, all the dimensions, all that needs to be here. It's not there on the map. If it's a simple driveway, that can be 12 feet. Is that right? 12 feet.
And that is a single driveway.
Single driveway, thank you.
But shared has to be 16
16.
with two 2-foot
Yeah, but it can be,
berms on the side.
it can be shared 16 up to where the point of share stops, correct?
Yes.
So the only, maybe the first, call it 75 feet will be 16, the rest of it.
Yep, that would be 12. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
but you still need a fall.
We're gonna need,
That also is a quick, when I looked at the map, going from,
can you do it on page?
Go ahead. Tell me what you're looking
you go, there's the map, Peters Hill there.
Yep.
There's the neighbor around here, right above there, has a pond. So
Yes,
in that corner that is right above the pond, going up to the road,
at.
yes.
there's a stream, so they might need a DEC stream crossing permit.
Which would be here.
Yeah, we're not going to cross that.
The shared, the driveway,
Oh, the driveway.
the driveway
There's an
will,
old, that one goes, is already there across that, what you're talking about. In that spot, it's not a stream. There's a runoff. That comes off of Rock Hill Road and down over the rocks. And then the stream starts on the other side of the road.
But is there a culvert or some sort of crossing already?
Yes,
Culvert?
yes,
Oh, okay, it's over there.
yes. It's been there for forever.
well, we're still gonna need details of it and the stream
Okay.
shown on the map, and if the quality of the culvert has to come up to speed for a real house
That's
versus
fine.
just being there.
What Lauren's pointing out is features like culverts need to be shown. Stone
Okay,
walls
gotcha.
on the property need to be shown.
Wooded areas. Wooded areas.
We're gonna need wooded area. I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, basically, my sort of summary from what you're saying, Rick, is it sort of needs a massive design standards review by CPL of lots of stuff.
okay.
I mean,
Got that. We're taking notes and.
I have a question on the shared driveway. So you mentioned that every 500 feet will need a pull off, okay? Does that, it might be a Mary Lou question, maybe we know the answer. Do we need a pull off because there's only one driveway?
yes.
So I could hypothetically make a 2,000-foot driveway right now to my house and I need 4 pull offs, even if it's just for me?
No, if you're sharing it. with
No, it's
somebody.
only if you're sharing
Okay,
it.
so hang on, I'm only sharing it at 70 feet.
What I would say in this case, our rule is, if it's shared, you pull off. We send it to the fire department, and the fire department says, that's too skinny, and we don't know what could happen, we have to get a, whatever, and the fire department will make a decision if on that second part.
Right, because I guess what I'm getting at is normally, which we've seen, like for instance, on Ridgeview Road, CDG, their second and third driveway are at 1,250 feet
Right.
and
So they
1,800 feet.
definitively need it.
They definitely need it, but in Mr. Fink's proposal, I don't know, but
Well,
it
the
doesn't
only-
look like you'll need a pull off just for
My
one
only
driveway.
comment about that is we just went through saying that a good portion of this could be 12 feet, but 12 feet is, you're only gonna get one truck through there. So yes, I would want to see pull-offs. I don't even want to have the fire department say any pull-offs because they may miss the fact that we said 12 feet is okay instead of 16 feet.
Okay.
So if they're gonna do 12 feet all the way out to this new house, they need pull-offs. You
Right,
can't
no, I
have-
guess I'm just saying because normally a driveway that's a shared driveway that's at
Yes,
1,250 feet.
you're-
you have to
You're
have-
right on the letter of the law, but this is always, remember, everything in our zoning code is the minimum.
Sure.
So this is obviously a really long driveway that if one bunch of EMS guys are going up and the trucks coming
Never
down,
gonna get it back.
they're never gonna be able to do it. You're gonna need to pull off or someone to
Yeah, but-
die in the house.
Well, look, the thing with the fire department is they fight fires. They don't design roads.
No, understood, correct, yeah.
And I don't want to
I
be in
just
a
know that.
position where there's some disaster and the planning board, you guys didn't, you
No,
made an
the-
exception for
when
the
the fire
fire.
department comes out the risk of how they look at the road, I mean, I was chief over at.
Well, we look at them as partners, and so I would
Yeah.
insist that this road has at least,
So,
I don't have a problem with that.
okay, it's for your benefit,
absolutely.
No problem.
okay? Um, Well, I think Lauren hit the nail on the head, but there's a lot of design standards that need to be.
Because I got-
accomplished here.
Yeah, I got a bunch more. and-
Lauren, go ahead, I have a bunch more, go ahead.
But so there's a flood zone along the side where towpath is. So we have to show the FEMA flood
I
zone.
saw that.
On,
On
On the
the
towpath.
Rose Hill side.
over here.
No, on the, I don't think it's called towpath, isn't it County Road 6?
Okay,
County Road 6,
That area,
yeah.
that's on
Yeah.
this-
Well,
I
when
think
I
it's
look
over
at
in
all
this
the
area.
county
That just needs to be delineated.
We'll have that on the map next time.
So that has to be there and you have to have setbacks. There's farmland of statewide importance and plant farmland all over. That has to be shown. We try to discourage development on farmland. It's a known area for rare terrestrial animals. It's an important bat foraging area. And it's a known important area for migratory fish, so I think we're gonna need TNA.
Fish?
Along where the.
The Peters Cone?
The Peters Cone. It's not on your property, but that, just the fact that having that with the, I don't know what rare terrestrial animal is there, that's just what the DEC says, and that it is a bat foraging area. So we're gonna need a TNA to figure out what's going on there. And it's a significant biodiversity area of the Hudson Valley, which reinforces we need a TNA. And I also said you need topo definitely, because this is like this, and then it is a cliff, an absolute cliff. So the runoff,
We're avoiding that whole area.
but the runoff you could have from the development or whatever, because of all of this topo, we're gonna need a heat map, grading, to see if this could all run into the migratory fish, Peters Kill / wetlands /
Yep.
whatever.
It's 2-foot contours and then the heat map is
Yep.
just,
That
Color-
can show.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll see when it happens, that Peter's going the land, we're not getting anywhere near it. Everything is running in the opposite direction. So nothing is running anywhere near the Peters. You'll see when.
Well, we get the topo, but I guess what Lauren's saying is, right now from Rock Hill, you have elevations going this way.
Right.
Does it eventually go that way?
Yeah, once you're down on this road, everything is.
So we'll need a heat map to show
Right.
that
That's
direction.
what it is.
I mean, then we'll eventually need the grading that Liz does, lumber disturbance. I mean, it's.
So we're gonna do what we're doing with the other projects. We'll send you a letter with all of this stuff in it. Few of the things that I mentioned, the things that Lauren had. Zach, do you have anything else?
No, I think they covered it all.
Sam?
I'm good, yeah, we just need those
Need
things.
more on
Yeah.
that.
Well, I knew that would be the case.
So we'll get you that.
Good.
And then we're gonna give this to our planner, Liz, and she's gonna analyze the whole thing. So you'll get something from us. She's gonna take a look at the whole thing and formally send you, your planner, here's what we need. I need at least $2,500 in escrow. There's a lot of work.
Can I make a comment to maybe to that? Is that
Go ahead.
okay? I've done a 4-lot subdivision,
Right.
which I'm in the process of, and I'm at $10,000 in escrow right now. So not to have heart failure, but wanted to give you the light at the end of the tunnel, that we asked for the 2,500 initially. But keep in mind that there could be stages where we're gonna ask for more as that escrow depletes, depending on how much involved in the project.
I'll get all this in information.
Yeah, the code only allows us to collect 2,500. for
The
storage.
code.
Yeah.
The code. town code.
That's
Um,
just the code.
The next request might be for twice that, but
Yeah.
the initial one. Anybody have anything else? No.
Yeah,
You're done.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is the first time I've ever seen the Bible quoted on a survey.
What is it? Amos?
Deuteronomy 19:14, thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark.
Nice.
Up on the top.
Little did I know.
Little did I know.
Can I ask, Mike, can I ask you a question? Is there some reason why you called this wildlands? And the reason I'm there, I'll tell you the reason I'm asking. There's actually a project in Scotland called Wildlands Project, which is a rewilding of some of the areas of Scotland that's being worked
I was
on.
unaware of that.
Do you have any connection to that?
Well, no, it was building beautiful lands and just, who even picked it?
It's a good business name.
Is that one of those maps?
Yes.
Okay, good seeing you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
You got any other
Good night.
matters?
Thank you.
Yes, we do. We have the local law.
All right.
We need to comment on prohibited uses.
So could everybody go to their Google Drive to the local law for prohibited uses?
We are moving right along, guys.
And this has mostly to do with, it sounds like it's mostly to do with oil and gas
What this
exploration.
is they're starting to go through the code. As you can see, this is 140-8.1. We're
Of
gonna
many.
keep getting these
Yep.
and getting these and getting these. So the zoning review committee added some prohibited uses. And you can see those in red. So the idea is if we have any other prohibited uses that we think also should be added,
That they forgot.
that they forgot. Right now, A, B, C, and part of D and G are there. They eliminated one that the zoning review committee had, which
Which was
was,
that?
it was for no chop shops and electronic dismantling. I don't know
Radioactive.
why. So basically you have places in where you could go and they're taking your old computers and all that stuff. It's all full of toxic crap. They dismantle it, ship it away. Or the same thing, you take cars and you basically chop shop.
Break down boats that way.
And I was like, well, I think we should suggest to put that back in. Because I don't really think, where in our town do we really want to have somebody dismantling electronic? And one thing they could do like that, an example would be, you could set up a solar panel dismantling spot in one of our industrial and business areas. It was,
Okay. Marvin, I'm going to ask you to
just add it in.
send a letter.
Mhm.
I'll sign it, but if you could compile it
Yep.
of the additional thing. So that was one thing that, there were two things that I thought of. One was, they don't explicitly mention it, but fracking, I know fracking is illegal in New York State, but do we want to be really explicit in the town of
Well, it already
Rochester?
says like 7 different ways you can't do it.
It says gas exploration. So I guess, was that the intent of what you wrote, Warren?
Exploration,
Yeah.
extraction.
And
of
that's
natural
what,
gas.
this actually came from Rob Kilper on D, that he included but not limited surveying and electromagnetic detection to estimate reserve and or resources. So adding that in, they couldn't even come and look to see if we had stuff to frack.
Okay.
So that sort of stops it in D. So not only could you explore, but you can't even come and see if you'd be able to get any.
All
So
right,
I
so,
think that pretty much,
okay, and what about another landfill?
Well, that's what E says.
Exactly. Solid waste landfills, processing and storage facilities, household hazardous waste collection, storage facilities. No parcels in the town shall be used for solid waste landfill, processing and storage facilities, and household hazardous waste.
So,
That's no more landfill. That's no more dumpster.
so this was, if we pass this, this is meant to, because the county is looking for a place to.
Yeah, not
This
here.
is meant exactly so the county
To
doesn't
avoid
go
that.
to Rochester.
I don't want to, this is not a hill I'm interested in dying on,
But you'll say it anyway.
but, well, no, I'll
I'm
say
not-
it because I think it's important to say it. I do not agree with E. Because I believe that, well, first of all, it's not clear to me whether it would even apply if the county decided they wanted to site a landfill here. But I do not support blanket prohibition of uses that we all contribute to just for daily lives. So we all generate garbage. I do not think there is a good place in our town for this use. On the one hand, but on the other hand, passing a law that says you cannot, under any circumstances, do that use, I do not think is a good way to behave as a municipality. Not a hill I'm gonna die on, but,
Alright, so
and if the rest of the planning board disagrees, then
I
have no-
think we have a landfill. I don't think we need any more.
Yeah, like I said, I just
It'd be
wanted to
different if we
voice
didn't have
the
one.
philosophical objection. If no one else on this board agrees with me, I'm not gonna.
No, I think that this comment is, or this bullet is designed because they don't want additional ones.
Right, that's what they're
I
saying.
don't think that it's saying that you can't have them all, because we already do.
We had, you can't retroactively ban something that.
Right, so do you feel like we need more? Or another one?
No, I do not desire to have a landfill in the town.
Okay.
I just,
he always
my
says he's
concern,
philosophical.
my
Yeah, I just don't, I can't imagine anybody would
well,
want
my
another
concern,
one.
my concern is that, my concern, just if you're asking what, like,
Yeah.
to flesh it out more, is if every town in the
Says no.
county or the state says you can't have a landfill.
Yeah.
Then we all need to stop producing garbage.
Don't worry, with inflation where it is, everybody's gonna be consuming a lot less. You're
But
probably
my-
gonna
but
be able
the
to put it in
but
your
the
backyard.
point is still, the point is still that if the, I do not think that our town is the most well-suited, even in Ulster County. However, if the county were to do a comprehensive study and say, oh, this parcel that I don't know about is actually the best parcel in the entire county to site a landfill.
Well, the answer to that.
I also think that would preempt our law.
What
You think so?
you also know is if the county came and found that and said that you can always
It would
amend
preempt
and
it.
change.
Or it would preempt.
Well, the
Just
town
like the
doesn't
town
own,
isn't subject to its own law.
the town or county
I don't
doesn't,
know if the town-
the town or county doesn't own property in our town that would be suitable or big enough to support a landfill.
Like I
So
said,
don't think
it's merely a debater's point.
Yeah,
Like,
sure
I don't
that-
think it's.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that's a parcel that if they were offered enough money,
Sure,
they would sell it.
right, but I don't, as right now, I don't think the county or the town has.
Right.
In.
I think that's true.
So this keeps it
I know
private, this keeps a private person from doing this, as Rick just stated.
It
But-
does do that.
If there was a statewide, countywide, whatever, why would they determine that? And came and presented to the town board and said, we've analyzed our entire county,
You're the
and
only
can
one.
you and this guy are the only ones that we see,
If
then
they
they
have
can
it,
always
that's-
amend and change the law.
And I think it should stay as written, because we wouldn't
Yes.
want someone creating their own.
Exactly, this stops me from saying, you know what, heck, I'm gonna make a land.
Agrees.
Right.
I have
Private-
300 acres and
right.
I'm taking my farm and making it.
Right. This stops private industry landfills.
Okay,
All right, I will draft it up.
So- anybody have any other changes? No.
No, we're good.
All right, I'll entertain a motion. Anybody else have any comments on this? I'll entertain a motion to end our meeting.
I give a
Motion to
motion
adjourn.
to end our meeting.
To adjourn.
Adjourn.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yay.
Bye.
All right, ending. Would you kill the?